What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 7HT Chapter 121, 10,000 times reward, 2 trillion volts of destruction Thunder God. 1. 10,000 Thunder Fruit. 2. A Destruction Thunder God Fruit. Ye Huo exited from the form of the Sacred Dragon. At the same time, the super hard armament Hokage and Rinnegan's powers were released. Thor Enel is indeed powerful. Thunder Fruit is definitely one of the most powerful fruits. Ye Huo mainly looked at the ability to destroy the Thunder God Fruit. The God of Destruction Fruit has great penetrating power. The penetration of the same volt is 10,000 times that of Thunder Fruit. In other words, even the strongest armament Hokage in the world would never be able to defend against this terrifying blow. Even Luffy's rubber body will definitely be knocked down in one blow. The God of Destruction Fruit is definitely the most powerful fruit in attack. Ye Huo's heart felt hot, but now, he was caught in a dilemma. Now his team has grown. Ye Huo really wants 10,000 Thunder Fruits for his subordinates to enhance their strength in preparation for attacking the world government and Marijoy. But the appeal of Thunder Fruit, which has increased by 10,000 times, is too great. On the one hand, it is the enhancement of overall strength. On the other hand, one's own personal strength has been greatly improved. How should you choose? After a battle of thoughts. Finally, Ye Huo finally made a decision. I choose a Destruction Thunder God Fruit. Ye Huo still couldn't bear to part with the Thunder Fruit that had grown 10,000 times. If you get other fruits in the future, give them to your subordinates. Thinking of this, Huo's heart suddenly became enlightened. In the next time, Ye Huo then set out to develop the Thunder Fruit's abilities. Ye Huo is already familiar with this. 3 days later, Ye Huo condensed into a drum. However, the color of this taiko drum is different from Enel, it is black. Dark and dark, shining with black light. 2 days later, Ye Huo completed the awakening of his first ability. He held the golden rod and struck the taiko drum on his shoulder hard. Countless black thunder lights flashed, making thunderous explosions, and condensed into a phoenix-like black thunderbird in front of Ye Huo. Ding! Congratulations to host for awakening the 30 million volt Thunderbird of Destruction. 1,000 times reward is triggered. Lots of Thunderbirds of Destruction. Ultra powerful Thunderbird of Destruction. There are so many Thunderbirds, 10,000 of them are released at one time. The superpower Thunderbird increases the voltage of the Thunderbird 10,000 times, reaching a terrifying 100 billion. The terrifying penetrating power, coupled with the terrifying voltage, Ye Huo couldn't imagine who could withstand it. Perhaps, the dragon pervert can resist it. To be on the safe side, I'm still awakening a few more abilities. 5 days later, Ye Huo awakened new abilities again. Ye Huo tapped Taiku on both shoulders at the same time. The black thunder condensed into a 700-meter-long black destruction thunder dragon. Ding! Congratulations to host for awakening the 60 million volt destruction thunder dragon. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. A lot of destruction thunder dragons. 2. Super powerful to destroy the Brontosaurus. Ye Huo decisively chose super power to destroy the thunder dragon. More than 10 days passed. Ye Huo awakened the god of destruction he wanted. Ye Huo's whole body was covered with black thunder and lightning. At this moment, Ye Mie really felt like the god of thunder between heaven and earth. Can control the power of all lightning. Ding! Congratulations to host for awakening the 200 million volt god of destruction. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. A lot of destroying thunder gods. 2. The super powerful god of destruction. There are so many gods of destruction, it is the gathering of 10,000 gods of destruction. The super powerful god of destruction, on the other hand, increases the voltage, reaching a terrifying 2 trillion volts. 2 trillion volts, that's 2 trillion volts. Ye Huo doesn't know what the concept of 2 trillion volts is. But Ye Huo knew that if he really sent out 2 trillion volts, it would definitely be a devastating blow. Ye Huo was in no hurry to return to Impel Down to join Rayleigh Sanwong and others. Instead, he wandered around the new world, looking for a person. With the Golden Lion around, Ye Huo's actions have become much easier. Ye Huo couldn't help but wonder, Golden Lion, with your ability, how come you were often caught? Golden Lion smiled and said, Little boss, well, haha, it's just because I am too confident in my own abilities that first always provoke Marine, but the result is haha. Ye Huo suddenly heard this and often walked by the river without getting his shoes wet. It seems that this Golden Lion not only walks along the river, but also often enters the water. It would be strange not to be caught. Any strong person will take a nap sometimes. There are times when someone takes advantage of you. Therefore, Ye Mie firmly implemented his plan. Be the strong man of the new world. Receive all the powerful forces on the sea under his command. When the time comes, with thunderous momentum, we will break through the world government, destroy Marijoy, and overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons. Ask for flowers, and Ye Huo believes it. As long as he destroys Marijoy, everyone in the world of Haza will resist the rule of the celestial dragons. At that time, he raised his arms and gathered together. The general trend was that the celestial dragons would completely collapse and a new social structure would emerge. And all of this is inseparable from one person, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon. Regarding the social structure and how people are arranged, Long must be better than himself and those pirate grandmasters. Golden Lion used the power of lion fruit and flew towards Baruti, the base camp of the Revolutionary Army. Golden Lion asked curiously, "Boss, the base camp of the Revolutionary Army is very secretive. How do you know it is in Baruto? Could it be that Marine has already mastered this information?" "You shouldn't ask more about what you know." Ye Huo gave him the bet in one sentence. .00 Night. Brother Baruti, in the dark castle. A figure slowly sneaked out. The man slowly raised his head. The dim moonlight slightly illuminated his cheek. He has wavy blonde hair, a scar on his left eye, and a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. This man obviously didn't want to disturb others, so he took a water pipe and walked quietly towards the outside of the castle. However, at this moment, a tall and muscular figure jumped in front of this man. A clear and graceful voice whispered, "Sabo, what do you want to do?" Sabo was startled and looked at the little beauty in front of him, wearing a dress, high heels, and a rose-red hat. "Koala, please keep your voice down so that no one can hear you." The little beauty is none other than Koala from the Revolutionary Army. "Sabo, the leader said that the man named Ye Huo might come during this period and let us hide as far as we can. How dare you disobey the leader? Not only did you not hide, but you even sent him to the door yourself. You say, if I tell the leader, how will the leader punish you?" Kral stared at Sabo closely. Sabo smiled and said, good Klar, good Klar. I really didn't want to go find that so-and-so Yi. Okay. Since you won't tell me the truth, then I'm going to scream." Just as Kral opened his mouth, Sabo rushed over and covered Kral's mouth. Okay, you're the smart guy. I'm looking for Ye Huo. Tell me what to do, and you and I will keep the secret. Kral sighed, I know you want to go and I can't stop you, but I want to go with you. If you die, I can also collect the corpses for you. Chapter 122 Chief of General Staff of the Instant Revolutionary Army. Sabo rubbed Koala's head and smiled, don't worry, I'm not that bad and I won't die that easily. Koala slapped Sabo's hand away and said, I hope that Ye Huo can attack the world government soon, destroy Marijoy, and overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons. Sabo's eyes suddenly became solemn. How can it be so easy to overthrow a government and establish a new one? The two of them disappeared into the night while talking. 2 days later, Ye Huo and Golden Lion were so powerful that they came to Baruto without much rest. Baruto is the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. As soon as Ye Huo and Golden Lion appeared, someone reported the news to Sabo. Ye Huo was walking towards the direction of the Revolutionary Army headquarters building. But at the end of the road, a figure walked slowly over. The May 13th figure is wearing a hat and pressing his head. Ye Huo stopped, and the opponent also stopped when he was 100 meters closer to Ye Huo, and slowly raised his head, revealing his wavy blonde hair. Sabo looked at Ye Huo, with infinite fighting spirit in his eyes, and slowly said, Are you the former Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral, now the traitor General Ye Huo? Ye Huo looked at Sabo with great interest and said, Yes, you are Sabo, the Chief of General Staff of the Revolutionary Army, right? Sabo raised his brows and smiled slightly, Yes, I didn't expect that you actually know me. You came here this time because you want us to join your team. Although I admire you very much, I also have to tell you, our ideas are different, it is impossible for us to join you, you should leave here early. Ye Huo crossed his arms and smiled, No one can stop what I want to do. Monkey D. Dragon, you Sabo, and everyone in this Revolutionary Army, I need your strength and help me establish rules. Or should we say discipline, law, rectify those pirates, overthrow the world government together, invade Marijoy, and overthrow the rule of the Kailong people? After hearing Ye Huo's words, Sabo was stunned for a moment. He thought of many possibilities. The other party might make wild claims or coerce and induce him, but he did not expect that he would let the Revolutionary Army join him. It turned out to be to improve discipline. At this moment, Sabo's view of Ye Huo changed. Sure enough, hearsay is not trustworthy. Sabo took a deep breath and said, No matter what you say, I can only ask you to leave here. Then it depends on whether you have the ability. As he said that, Ye Huo put one hand behind his back, hooked the other hand at Sabo, and said with a smile, I only use one hand, as long as you can make it I will take a step back and leave immediately. Sabo's face suddenly darkened when he heard this, and his whole body suddenly released a powerful aura. His eyes became extremely sharp. The black armament hockey wrapped around the water pipe in his hand. The next moment, he bent his legs slightly, exerted force suddenly, and shot toward Ye Huo like a cannonball. Yi was motionless, and the purple-black energy stars formed a skeleton in front of him. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the water pipe entangled with armament hockey suddenly burst and flew out. Sabo's body was shaken back a dozen steps by the powerful counter-shock force. Sabo looked at Ye Huo with an extremely solemn expression. He took a deep breath and slowly stretched out his right hand. The little and ring fingers are close together. The middle and index fingers are together. Armament hockey attached his right hand. Armament Haki condenses to ultimate, releasing energy like a black ribbon. At this moment, the smile on Yi Mie's face narrowed. Armament Haki has been trained to this extent, he is already considered a strong man. The next moment, Sabo rushed over again and was in front of Ye Huo in an instant. Dragon Claw. At that moment, Sabo's palm dug into the skull. Ye Huo narrowed his eyes slightly, Sabo's Haki is really good. But, Shuchuo's skeleton suddenly solidified, clamped Sabo's palm. The huge palm suddenly slapped over. Sabo couldn't dodge. Boom. With a loud noise, Sabo was slapped away by Ye Huo. You don't have enough fighting experience. Ye Huo withdrew Susanoo's power. The energy of the destruction Thunder God fruit was mobilized. Dark drums appeared around his body, and there was a golden rod in his hand. At that moment, the golden rod struck the taiko drum on his shoulder. A dull and loud sound sounded. Countless black thunder and lightning condensed in front of Ye Huo into a destructive thunderbird with a wingspan of more than 500 meters. A sharp howl resounded throughout the world. The dark thunderbird of destruction carries a voltage of up to 300 billion volts. All power communication equipment within a radius of several thousand meters was completely affected. The furs of some animals exploded. Sabo's curly hair stands straight up. Terrifying energy fluctuations spread in all directions. The powerful and terrifying energy scared Koala in the distance to jump out and shouted at Sabo, "Sabo, get out of the way." However, it was already too late. The Thunderbird of Destruction instantly blasted towards Sabo with the power to destroy everything. Sabo's pupils instantly shrank to pinpoints. It's too late to hide. Do I want to die? As soon as Sabo's idea came up, the world suddenly changed. A strong wind came and immediately swept Sabo and Carla aside. The Thunderbird of Destruction flew past Sabo's body and shot towards the distant Sea Lord in an instant. Just listen to a loud roar that shook the earth. Countless black currents exploded. A huge puddle with a radius of several thousand meters and a depth of thousands of meters appeared on the sea surface. The hot energy vaporizes the seawater, causing large amounts of mist to rise. Huge waves tens of meters high were surging, layer upon layer, and striking in all directions. Lapping on the shores of Barudago. Boom boom boom. A huge wave surged in. Countless private houses are about to be destroyed. Almost at the same time, the sun array went crazy. The squally wind shape 2.3 became a wall of wind, which actually blocked the monstrous waves. Strong winds swept through, the waves gradually receded, and the sea surface gradually became calm. A destructive force calmed down in front of another powerful force. Ye Huo looked up. Dark clouds rolled in the sky and heavy rain poured down. A silver lightning flashed, illuminating the figure in the air. This man was wearing a dark green coat and had a red square tattoo on the left side of his face. A pair of triangular eyes stared sharply at Ye Huo. The terrifying and powerful pressure was pressing hard towards Ye Huo. Ye Huo's torn cloak was shaking, and his half-long black hair was fluttering in the wind. The rain had wet his body, but his eyes were exceptionally bright. Ye Huo grinned, "Monkey D. Dragon, you are finally willing to show up." Chapter 123 Destruction Thunder God vs. Monkey D. Dragon Fruit. Monkey D. Dragon glanced at Ye Huo, said nothing, turned around and flew towards the depths of the sea. Ye Huo stepped into the void, cast Moonwalk, and followed closely. Both sides were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they were far away from the base camp of the Revolutionary Army. The dragon stopped and Ye Huo also stood in the void. Long said slowly, "Thank you very much for helping Quanzi in Linford that day. I will remember this kindness and will definitely repay it if I have the opportunity in the future." Hearing this, Ye Huo smiled and said, "You don't have to wait until tomorrow. You can return now and join my team to help me establish a new world government." Long shook his head and said, "Your team is too disorganized. Pirates are pirates after all. They are unorganized and undisciplined. They are a group of people without faith. My energy cannot be spent on people who have lost their faith." Ye Huo said, "First of all, I will never die. Secondly, if we only rely on the power of your revolutionary army, when will we be able to overthrow the world government, invade Marijoy, and overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons? Decades? Or hundreds of years? What you have in front of you now is a huge opportunity. As long as we succeed, the world government will be overthrown and the rule of the celestial dragons will be overthrown. Are you going to let go of such a good opportunity?" Long shook his head and said, "You are no match for the world government, let alone invade Marijoy. The power of Garp and Sengoku is beyond your imagination. The 5 elders of the world government and the mysterious special institutions have powerful power that is beyond your imagination. The hordes of pacifists alone are beyond what your minions can handle. And, I can guarantee that when you invade the world government, all the power of the world government will be concentrated on attacking you. Because the world government knows that as soon as you die, those rabble will instantly collapse. And among those rabble, no one will try their best to help you. Because they believe in the strong in their hearts. If you live, you are strong and they will follow you. If you die, they will collapse in an instant." Ye Huo laughed loudly when he heard this. "After all, you have to use force to speak. In that case, dragon, let me show you my power. I want you to know that Ye Huo, no one in this world can kill me. As soon as the voice stopped, Ye Huo's body suddenly burst out with unparalleled terrifying power. Boom, boom, boom. The taiko drum behind Ye Huo was beating crazily. That loud sound was like a god beating a heavenly drum. P as much as you can. P as much as you can. The drum beats became more and more intense, the drums became louder and louder. Ye Huo's body began to grow rapidly, reaching the size of 1,000 meters in an instant. A series of destructive thunders with a thickness of 10 meters were continuously shot out of Ye Huo's body. Click, 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 the thunder of destruction splits the void and produces a powerful boom. The dark clouds in the sky became thicker, completely blocking the moonlight. The sea surface fell into deep darkness, the wind roared and the thunder roared. Huge waves tens of meters high were surging. The sea seemed to be at the end of the world. In that moment, countless black thunder suddenly descended from the sky and hit Ye Huo's body one after another. Ye Huo suddenly let out a loud shout, Thunder God of Destruction. At that moment, Ye Huo's body increased tenfold. He is a terrifying 10,000 meters tall. The dark thunder reached a thickness of 100 meters. The length reaches an astonishing several thousand meters. 2 trillion volts of terrifying destructive thunder rushed towards the dragon at that moment. At that moment, Long's face was extremely shocked. He thought about Ye Huo's power becoming extremely powerful. But at this time, Ye Huo's power could no longer be described as powerful. Countless black lightnings shine. Ye Huo is like the god of thunder in this world. The dragon's expression became ferocious. He suddenly let out a roar. Although he is strong, he is also weak. At that moment, countless strong winds rolled up the thunderclouds, forming an extremely huge thunder tornado. The 3 forces of Fengyanlei gathered together and formed a huge dragon head at the end. The dragon's head is 1,000 meters in size, with endless silver lightning shining on it. The lightning shattered the void, making bursts of rumbles. At that moment, Feng Yun's thunder dragon head collided with the destructive thunder released by the god of destruction. The dazzling light instantly illuminated the dark sea. Hundreds of meters thick, the extremely penetrating black thunder of destruction with 2 trillion volts instantly penetrated the dragon's wind and cloud thunder tornado. The wind and cloud thunder tornado was penetrated instantly, and countless silver snakes danced in all directions. The thunder of destruction passed by the dragon at a distance of 100 meters. The clothes on the dragon's body instantly turned into ashes. That strong body was electrocuted with countless scorch marks. There were bursts of black smoke. The next moment, the destructive thunder struck the thundercloud in midair. At that moment, the thunder of destruction exploded. Boom! An unprecedented explosion struck heaven and earth. The entire space seemed to be scorched black by the destructive thunder. The burnt blackness lasted for a long time before dissipating. Terrifying shock waves blew in all directions. The dark clouds were blown away instantly. The impact hit the sea surface and formed a huge sea crater. The tide surged in all directions. People living on islands hundreds of miles away were awakened by the huge noise. They all looked into the distance, don't know what happened. In midair, the dragon's body kept falling. He was just scratched by the remaining power of 360 meters away from the terrifying thunder of destruction. It caused such horrific harm to him, if hit head on. Long couldn't imagine it. At this moment, Long finally understood why Ye Huo had such strong self-confidence. If it were this man, he might really be able to overthrow the world government, invade Marijoy, and overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons. At this moment, infinite hope suddenly rose in Long's heart. He finally saw the future of the Revolutionary Army, and the dawn of overthrowing the celestial dragons was just around the corner. A smile appeared on the corner of Long's mouth. Ye Huo also didn't expect that the god of destruction would be so terrifying. He was glad in his heart that he didn't aim directly at the dragon, otherwise the dragon would become ashes. Who would help him manage those chaotic pirates? Ye Huo removed the ability to destroy the Thunder God fruit. The figure flashed and came to Long's side, grabbed him and sent him to the Revolutionary Army headquarters for treatment. 3 days later, Long was in good health and led the Revolutionary Army to follow Ye Huo to impel down. There was nothing going on the road when Long suddenly smiled and said, "Chief, I heard that you can absorb a lot of devil fruit. Is it true?" Ye Huo raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but said, "Are you curious?" Long laughed, and Sabo gave him a piece of cake. The box was opened, and there was a fruit with an arabesque pattern inside. Chapter 124. The Sao Sao fruit is rewarded 10,000 times with the sacred tree fruit. Ye Huo looked at the devil fruit in front of him, and then at Long Dao. "This is the devil fruit. If you eat it, you will gain great power. Don't you want it?" Long smiled and said, "This fruit is probably a fruit with relatively weak plants. Eating it will not increase your strength much, and it will also prevent you from going to the sea, so no one wants to eat it." "Chief, do you dare to eat another one?" Ye Huo smiled and said, "Is there anything I don't dare to do?" At that moment, Ye Huo grabbed the devil fruit and stuffed it into his mouth. Still tastes so bad, but at the same time, a soft energy poured into the body. Although the energy is weak, it possesses extremely powerful vitality. Soft energy surged into his body, repairing his physical wounds. Almost at the same time, the system sound sounded. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting the Sao Sao fruit. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. 10,000 straw fruits. 2. A sacred tree fruit. Sacred tree fruit. Ye Huo suddenly felt excited in his heart. If it is the sacred tree fruit, can I reproduce the power of wood style here? Ye Huo carefully checked the introduction of the sacred tree fruit. Sacred tree fruit. It has strong recovery power. It has strong suppressive power on life and the power of devil fruit. Has a strong suppressive power over the power of life? Ye Huo's pupils shrank. Human beings, isn't it the power of life? Doesn't that mean it has a strong repressive power over human beings? It still has suppressive power over devil fruit. The sacred tree is truly worthy of the name of the sacred tree. Okay, the power of the sacred tree fruit is really great. A look of excitement appeared on Ye Huo's face, and Long, Sabo, Koala and others stared closely at Ye Huo. I don't know what happened to Ye Huo, I choose a sacred tree fruit. The choice was completed in Ye Huo's heart. The next moment, that soft power suddenly became extremely powerful and overbearing, resisting dark fruit's fusion power. This was the first time Ye Huo felt the power of devil fruit against dark fruit. In response, Ye Huo felt even more happy. At the same time, he was also secretly vigilant. After having this sacred tree fruit, you should choose carefully before absorbing devil fruit yourself. Ye Huo thought so in his heart. The power of the divine tree was swimming within his body, repairing the hidden wounds deep in his body. Suddenly, Ye Huo's face suddenly became skinny. Dragon, Sabo, and Koala all widened their eyes. I thought to myself, could it be that Ye Huo's body had changed due to various devil fruit reactions? Dead skin begins to fall off. Ye Huo's greasy face suddenly became extremely dry. The already handsome face was now fairer and more delicate. The skin can be broken by blowing, even better than a baby's skin. Koala, who was watching this scene, was extremely jealous. If he had known better, he would have eaten this devil fruit. Regret, I really regret it. Koala looked envious. Ye Huo got the sacred tree fruit. Then the retreat began and I began to awaken my abilities. Ye Huo has had the power of wood style before. Learned the powerful wood style ninjutsu. He followed the example, and after several days of research, he finally came up with the pirate version of the powerful wood style. Ye Huo makes fingerprints with both hands. The fruit energy in his body circulated along a strange trajectory and dissipated from his body. Almost at the same time, sacred tree saplings grew on the Revolutionary Army's ship. The attentive senior leaders of the Revolutionary Army were stunned when they discovered these saplings, which were only the size of a finger. This boat has been painted, so why are there still saplings growing on it? But the next moment, these saplings began to grow crazily, and in an instant they turned into large trees with a thickness of 1 meter, entangling the Revolutionary Army. The Revolutionary Army has considerable strength and possesses the power of the fruit. Just when they wanted to use the power of the fruit to break free, they found that their bodies were weak and the power of the fruit could not be mobilized. This shocked the top leaders of the Revolutionary Army. In a short period of time, the entire ship was covered with trees. It seems like a small island full of trees, floating in the sea. The system sound also sounded at the same time. Ding, congratulations to host for awakening in the sacred tree forest. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. A large forest with many sacred trees. 2. Super God tier forest. Ye Huo took a closer look at the two rewards. There are so many sacred trees in the forest, the number of sacred trees has increased 10,000 times, and the area covered has greatly increased. In other words, Ye Huo can definitely create a forest with one ability. As for the super powerful divine tree forest, the power of a single sacred tree increases, and each sacred tree can grow to 10,000 meters or even higher. Ye Huo fell into trouble again. In the end, Ye Huo chose the super god tier forest. He still felt that the more concentrated the power, the better. After more than 10 days, Ye Huo finally got the ability he dreamed of. This time Ye Huo made another hand seal. The energy in the body moves along a strange trajectory. The next moment, the energy of the sacred tree fruit began to gather, and finally turned into a wooden golem Buddha. The wooden golem Buddha is 1,000 meters tall and has thousands of huge arms behind it. The moment the wooden golem appears, the whole boat was overturned. Ye Huo hurriedly activated the wooden golem and automatically entered the sea. The wooden golem is a condensation of sacred trees and is extremely dense. As soon as it enters the sea, it sinks rapidly. In a blink of an eye, the entire head was lost in the sea. Ye Huo jumped high in an instant and stayed away from the water. Ding! Congratulations to host, Awakening Senju Shenmue Chemical Company, Limited. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. There are many Senju sacred trees that turn into Buddhas. 2. The super powerful Senju tree turns into a Buddha. This time Ye Huo didn't think much about it and said directly, I choose the super powerful Senju sacred tree to transform into a Buddha. The next moment, in the seawater, the body of the 1,000-meter-high sacred tree Buddha began to grow rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it was 2,000 meters high, and all the parts above the chest, Qian Nuahao, appeared on the sea surface. And the body has become darker, looking full of toughness and strength. Ye Huo jumped onto the top of the sacred tree Buddha. Controlling the huge wooden golem, he raised his palms and straightened the boat. Then one palm after another lifted up the revolutionary army that fell into the water. The revolutionary army was petrified. What is that giant wooden golem with Senju in the water? In the shock of everyone, Ye Huo slowly restrained the fruit's ability. The huge sacred tree Buddha sank into Ye Huo's body and turned into the energy of the fruit again. The ship continued to sail, and all the revolutionary troops regretted it. Is that the ability of the grass fruit, astonishingly powerful and terrifying? Why do they just eat it? The ship continued sailing, and 3 days later, when passing through a canyon, a small wooden boat blocked it. In the wooden boat, there was a person lying leisurely, basking in the sun. Chapter 125. The pirate version of Senju transforms into a Buddha on top of his magical power. A high-ranking member of the revolutionary army saw the boat in the distance and shouted, "People in front, please row the boat away quickly." However, the people on the boat opposite didn't seem to hear it. Lean against the side of the boat with your legs crossed. Put your hands behind your head. Long Persian curly hair covers half of her face. There was a smile on his lips. The waves rolled and the boat rose and fell, but it did not sink. Didn't get out of the way. Asshole. The top brass of the revolutionary army cursed angrily and shouted, "Rear the sails and stop the ship." At this time, Long came over and asked, "What's going on?" The revolutionary army pointed at the small boat in front and cursed, "Chief, there is a bastard in front of you, blocking the entrance of the strait. No matter how you shout, he won't move over. I'm afraid of hitting him to death, so I ordered the sails to be lowered and the boat passed." Long Wenyan walked to the bow of the ship and saw the bastard, who didn't know whether to live or die. The shadow of the big ship has enveloped the small boat. The small boat was about to be knocked over by the larger ship, but the man on the boat was still unconscious. It was as if he felt nothing. The ship slowly stopped. The top leaders of the revolutionary army couldn't help but cursed, "This bastard should be killed." Long looked at the people below and said loudly, "Who are you, and why are you blocking our way?" The man heard Long's voice, and finally slowly opened his eyes, looked at Long above and said with a smile, "Hey, I thought it was 447 who was so rude and disturbed me from sunbathing here." At this time, Ye Huo heard the quarrel and walked from the cabin to the bow. Someone had already told him what was going on. Ye Huo's curiosity arose in his heart. This person obviously did it on purpose. Moreover, it can be said that it is the ship of the revolutionary army dragon, so it is obviously well prepared. Who is the one? As soon as Ye Huo showed his head, the man turned his attention to Ye Huo and said with a smile, "Hey, it turns out that Shi Long is a man. He was the former Marine Vice Admiral and now the rebel general. The world-recognized Pirate King is also here." Ye Huo was slightly startled when he heard this. "One Piece?" The man smiled and said, "Yes, Ye Huo, don't you know, you are now the recognized Pirate King of New World. I heard that you want to overthrow the world government, invade Marijoy, the holy land of celestial dragons, and overthrow the rule of celestial dragons. You are now a recognized enemy of the world government and celestial dragons. Now your bounty has increased to 50 billion belly, it's really tempting." Hearing this, Ye Huo crossed his arms across his chest, raised his chin slightly, squinted at the man below and said, "What, you want to catch me and get the reward money?" The man raised his lips and shook his head, "No, no, no, I still know how much I weigh and I'm no match for you." "Then what do you want to do?" The man laughed and said, "I'm just curious about how big the gap is between me and the man who conquered the 3 emperors and was offered a reward of 50 billion belly by the world government." Ye Huo's smile grew wider. "So you want to fight me? Okay, I'll take it, but if you lose?" "If I lose, I will join your team." "I understand this." The man smiled, jumped suddenly, and landed on the 1,000-meter-high cliff behind him. "You retreat 10 miles away." After Ye Huo finished speaking, he jumped onto another cliff in the strait. The top leaders of the revolutionary army couldn't help but ask, "Is it that exaggerated to retreat 10 miles away?" "Back 100 miles. Long said slowly, and then used the power of the fruit to form a strong wind. The ship was shot out at a very high speed like a sharp arrow. In a short time, it flew 100 miles away and continued to leave in the distance. In the end, the crew saw that the mountains in the strait were only the size of a thumb. On the strait, Ye Huo asked, "Who are you?" The man laughed and said, "I'm not that kind of person, but those who know me call me Green Bull." "Green Cow." Ye Huo was stunned. When Marine recruits troops all over the world. This Green Bull was exceptionally promoted to Marine Admiral due to its overwhelming strength. It is said to be an extremely powerful monster. The smile on Ye Huo's lips grew stronger. It turned out to be a green cow. No wonder you have the guts to challenge yourself. Ye Huo's expression returned to normal and he said slowly, "I'll give you a chance, you take action first." "Ha ha ha, he is really a gentle man. It's a pity that you, BCBE, are not a woman." Green Bull said this, and at the same time he raised his right hand, and a little green fluorescence emerged from the tip of his index finger. The next moment, the green light flourished, and more than a dozen green branches were instantly released from his fingertips. The tip of the branch has a cone shape, and armament hockey is attached to it, turning it into a sharp spear. At that moment, it stabbed Ye Huo in front of him. Almost at the same time, Ye Huo's figure jumped high into the air. Those dozen spears pierced the mountain instantly. Directly plunged into the mountain. Rumble! There was a loud noise, and the top of the mountain was completely shattered. Countless gravel rolled down. Green Bull's fingers shook slightly, and the dozens of armed spears with wooden spikes turned around and shot towards Ye Huo in midair. Ye Huo clenched his right fist, a white ball of light appeared in his palm, and then punched the space below. Cracks suddenly appeared in the space. The cracks extend downward. The powerful concussive force instantly hit the wooden-armed spear. At that moment, the wooden-armed spear suddenly bent, and the next moment it shattered into countless pieces of wood. The Green Bull in the distance laughed loudly and said, "Okay, you defeated my armed spear with wooden spikes so slowly and easily, it seems that I have to show some real skills. Ye Huo, try this trick of mine." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Sheng's body began to change. His body was filled with green light, and his body began to surge. In a blink of an eye, he transformed into a wooden giant nearly 800 meters tall. The next moment, a layer of armament hockey appeared on the green body of the wooden giant. Green Bull's armament hockey has also practiced to the extreme. Surrounded by black light, Ye Huo once again activated the super hard hockey, and the sacred tree Senju suddenly attached a layer of black, shining with purple-black light. It looks very hard. The sacred tree Senju transforms into Buddha. Rocks were thrown, strong winds swept through, and the sea surface once again set off a violent wave. Boom! There was an explosion. Mountains as high as 1,000 meters were directly destroyed. Ye Huo dodged and the punch hit the mountain again. In the blink of an eye, a huge wooden golem with a height of more than 2,000 meters and a Senju behind it was formed. Black-green energy quickly condensed in front of Ye Huo. Ye Huo's eyes sparkled and he said loudly, "As you wish." The power of a single blow can move mountains and fill seas, which is so terrifying. Ye Huo said proudly, "Green Bull, let's see whose fist is harder." At that moment, Ye Huo completed the mudra. Green Bull waved his huge fist and struck Ye Huo again. However, Green Bull laughed loudly and said, "Ye Huo, I haven't used my full strength with this punch. I heard that you have a 1,000-meter giant, but you are not infinite. Why don't you punch it?" Ye Huo shouted low, his figure flashed, and he jumped onto the head of the giant Heman. The energy of the sacred tree fruit in the body is completely released. Chapter 126. Instant Marine Admiral Green Bull. Ye Huo put his hands together. Armament hockey and the power of the sacred tree fruit instantly activated ultimate. Thousands of fists with a diameter of 100 meters and attached to the dark armament hockey fell from the sky, hitting the Green Bull like thousands of meteorites. The sky above the Green Bull suddenly dimmed. Before the fist could reach him, the terrifying wind pressure was already crushing him. He could hardly straighten his back. The powerful armament hockey shines with purple-black light. Exudes soul-stirring power. The 800-meter tall figure of the Green Bull is as small as a baby in front of the Senju sacred tree Buddha in Ye Huo. The Green Bull's eyes flashed with semen, and a wild smile appeared on its lips. The green hair on his head was dancing wildly, and terrifying power instantly burst out from the Green Bull's body. The huge wooden golem clenches its fists, and its armed color thunder energy shines with black light. A shockwave air mass visible to the naked eye emerged from wooden golem's fist. At that moment, Green Bull let out a loud roar, wooden golem impact. Wooden golem, armament hockey, and terrifying shockwaves were instantly released from the Green Bull's fist. He collided hard with Ye Huo's fist. The dazzling white light swept across the world in an instant. The purple-black armament hockey flies tens of thousands of meters like a ribbon. Mountains far and near were swept away by hockey and shattered instantly. Thousands of meteorite-like fists crashed down. The terrifying shockwaves centered on the two people and struck in all directions instantly. The bodies near and far fell apart instantly. A huge puddle with a diameter of tens of thousands of meters suddenly formed on the sea surface. Waves hundreds of meters high surged wildly, rushing in all directions. The huge roar spread directly to more than 100 miles away. The shock waves shook the hull violently. The wind brought heavy rain down. Waves hundreds of meters high came rushing over. The whole sky became dark. The soldiers of the Revolutionary Army turned pale with fear. They were already so far apart. It actually has such terrifying power. If they had not listened to their leader and retreated 100 miles away, they would have been wiped out long ago. The dragon once again used the power of the fruit. The strong wind formed a wall of wind, blocking this terrifying wave. The Revolutionary Army breathed a sigh of relief. And in the center of the explosion, thousands of meteorite-like fists fell, and Green Bull only blocked 100 of them before being hit hard on the body by the remaining fists. At that moment, the Green Bull's legs were smashed into pulp. Boom boom boom. The huge fist continued to pound. The belly, arms, and head of the green bull were smashed into pulp. The remaining fist, Ye Huo, deviated from its original trajectory and did not hit the green bull again. After a while, the bright light gradually dimmed. The shock wave also gradually dissipated. The water that was blasted out began to surge back. The green bull inside the pit has long lost its human shape. Ye Huo will inhale the energy of the Buddha in the hand tree into the body. Then he grabbed the green cow that looked like a meatloaf. It flew towards the Revolutionary Army ship 100 miles away. Ye Huo threw the body of the green bull into the boat. The Revolutionary Army's lips twitched when they saw the miserable appearance of the green bull. This man was beaten like this, can he still survive? Who knows, probably he won't survive. People with fruit abilities have magical abilities, but they may not be able to survive. Ye Huo brought the green ox back, naturally because the green ox was alive. Although the green bull was smashed, Ye Huo still felt that the vitality in his body was slowly increasing. This made Ye Huo a little curious. The sun's rays gradually grew stronger. The body of the green cow shone with a bright green light. Under the shining green light, small saplings grew out. Among the Revolutionary Army, some people even watered it with water when they saw it. Nourished by water, the saplings grow faster. The roots of the saplings were like needles and threads, suturing the green cow's wounds. As time went by, Green Bull's injuries were slowly healing. Arrived 3 days later, a towering tree grew from the body of the green cow. His body has completely recovered as before. The big tree began to shrink, turned into nutrients, and integrated into the green cow's body. In the days that followed, the green cow lay lazily on the bow of the boat basking in the sun. Every time the Revolutionary Army saw the green bull, his appearance a few days ago would come to mind. It only took a few days to fully recover, which is really a pervert. I don't know what his fruit is. The green ox has a very friendly personality. Especially very good for women. Of course, the most important thing is, please give me flowers. Zero Green Bull is not only powerful and handsome enough, he was eloquent and often made the female compatriots in the Revolutionary Army laugh. Soon Green Bull was integrated into this group. Female compatriots are very 8 trigrams at all times. So, someone told Green Bull that Ye Huo had many devil fruits in his body. They all want to know how many devil fruit Ye Huo can swallow. The words of these women immediately aroused Green Bull's curiosity. Green Bull was also curious about how many fruits Ye Huo could eat. Then, Green Ox came to Ye Huo holding a fruit with a tang grass pattern. Ye Huo looked at the green cow, then at the fruit, and twitched the corners of his mouth. You don't want to see how many devil fruits I eat before I die, do you? Ha ha ha. How could it be possible? I'm just curious about how much devil fruit your magical physique can hold. Is there any difference? Ye Huo glanced at the revolutionary troops around him angrily. All eyes were looking at him. These people are probably too curious. Ye Huo looked at the devil fruit and asked, what kind of fruit is this? Green Bull chuckled and said, it's the door fruit. Huh? How come you have this fruit? Ye Huo's heart moved. Ding! Congratulations to host for getting the door fruit. You can catch the world government and celestial dragons off guard. Thousands of times the reward is triggered. You can open the door and come in and out freely anywhere. The system sound sounded at the same time. Everyone immediately looked at Ye Huo with wide eyes. Talent. When the fruit enters the mouth, it is equally unpalatable. Any object touched by the gate fruit user's hand will turn into a door and can be opened. If it increases 10,000 times, what fruit will it become? Thinking of this, Yi Mie grabbed the Menman fruit and put it in his mouth. Green Bull smiled and said, how about this fruit you got after accidentally killing a guy? Little boss, do you dare to eat it? Fortunately, in an instant, it turned into a warm current and poured into the body. Will he explode and die this time or turn into some kind of monster? If this ability is used well, Ye Huo's heart suddenly became eager. This is a very heaven-defying ability. Chapter 127, 10,000 times reward, Space Wormhole Fruit. 1. 10,000 gate fruits. 2. A space wormhole fruit. Seeing the second reward, Ye Huo was overjoyed. After the power of this door fruit increased 10,000 times. It turned into a space wormhole fruit. This was much better than his guess. If this fruit is used well, it is definitely more powerful than any fruit in his body. The smile on Ye Huo's face became brighter and brighter. Green Bull felt more and more bored, didn't see Ye Huo's body explode. Or become a monster, which is a shame. The green cow continued to bask in the sun. Ye Huo began to try to awaken the ability of the space wormhole fruit. Ye Huo is extremely skilled at this. 5 days later, Ye Huo stimulates the fruit energy in the body. Then, a circular black space door with a diameter of 5 meters appeared in front of his eyes. 68-7. At the same time, as far as the eye could see, 100 miles away, a similar circular space door also appeared. Ye Huo stepped into the door of space. The next moment, he appeared hundreds of miles away. The other end of the space gate, Ye Huo looked back again. The Revolutionary Army ship appeared like a black spot hundreds of miles behind. A slight smile appeared at the corner of Ye Huo's mouth. The ability he awakened is really good. Let's call it the Space Teleportation Gate. Ding! Congratulations to host for awakening the Space Teleportation Gate. 1000 times reward is triggered. 1. Doors to multiple spaces. 2. The door to ultra-distant space. Ye Huo didn't rush to make a choice this time. He carefully examined the difference between the two. Super multiple space gates. With the host as the center and within a radius of 100 miles, the host can condense 10,000 space gates and shuttle among them at will. Gate of ultra-distant space. With the host as the center, within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, the host can condense 2 space gates and shuttle at will. Ye Huo thought for a moment. The advantages and disadvantages of the door to multiple spaces and the door to ultra-distant spaces are very obvious. How should you choose? Ye Huo's idea is to teleport his pirate army over long distances directly to naval headquarters to catch them by surprise. It's just that the diameter of the space gate is only 5 meters, and even a small boat cannot teleport. Then, this ability can basically only be used by yourself. If you use it yourself, 100 miles is far enough. If you can choose 10,000 locations to move quickly, then even Kizaru's sparkling fruit won't be able to touch you. Thinking of this, Ye Huo already made a decision in his heart. I choose the door to multiple dimensions. As Ye Huo's voice fell, countless 10,000 black space gates with a diameter of 5 meters appeared within a radius of 1,000,000 miles with Ye Huo as the center. At the same time, in Ye Huo's mind, such a strange scene appeared. It's like there are big screens in my mind. He could see 9,999 images. And these pictures are all pictures that emerge in the direction the space door faces. One of the pictures is facing a small island. Ye Huo's spirit locked onto this island. Ye Huo walked in through the space door in front of him. The next moment, he walked out of the door of space and saw the small island in front of him. Ye Huo found this very interesting. Ye Huo's spirit can scan 9,999 pictures in an instant. The Revolutionary Army's ship was instantly locked. Ye Huo took one step forward and entered the door of space again. The next moment he was already in the sky above the Revolutionary Army ship. The green bull looks at the space gate in the sky. Looking at Ye Huo walking out of the door silently. The corner of Green Bull's lips curled up. He is just a monster. Any fruit that comes into his hands becomes incredibly powerful. He still remembered the previous owner of the Menman fruit. The hand needs to touch the space, and then open the door, and then the teleportation can be carried out. And it can only send in one direction. Green Bull glanced at the unknown number of space portals in the air. The corners of his mouth twitched again. What the hell? He is really not human. Ye Huo gathered the ability of the fruit. Returned to the cabin again and started trying to awaken new abilities. The Revolutionary Army ship continued to sail. Green Bull continued to bask in the sun and discuss life with the little beauty from the Revolutionary Army. Sometimes we also discuss the differences in the physiological structure of men and women. The little beauty from the Revolutionary Army immediately slapped the Green Bull, calling Green Bull shameless, but I was still blushing the next day. While cursing the green cow, he was joking with the green cow. Another 8 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 8 days, Ye Huo did not go out once. Ye Huo didn't touch the food delivered. For 8 days, Ye Huo kept eating and sleeping. Long looked at the cabin where Ye Huo was and thought to himself, a true genius must have talent and work hard. Crunch. The door was pushed open. Ye Huo strode out. It turned out that Ye Huo got the sacred tree fruit. Experienced the fruit cleansing the body. His face is already very fresh and clean. A chiseled face is extremely attractive, but these days, Ye Huo is too lazy to wash up and gets dirty again. Half of her hair covered her eyes. His face and chin were unshaven, and he looked like a decadent uncle. Ye Huo stretched his waist and saw the dragon looking towards him. Awakened new abilities? Long asked with a smile. Haha, finally the hard work paid off. I finally awakened the one I wanted. A mysterious smile appeared at the corner of Ye Huo's lips. Green Newton on the side also became interested. He stood up from the recliner, stared at Ye Huo with his eyes and said excitedly, "What kind of ability do you have? Show it to me." Ye Huo nodded and said, "Okay, let you get familiar with it first so that you won't be caught off guard." Lu Niu was confused when he heard what Ye Huo said. "What do you mean we were caught off guard? What does this ability have to do with us?" Long's face changed when he heard this, and he became excited. He couldn't help but ask, could it be that kind of ability? Yes. That's the kind of ability. Ye Huo's eyes also burst with astonishing light. Green Newton was stunned. "I asked you too if you could stop playing riddles. What is your ability? Can you tell me about it? It made me itch 4.5. Dragon suddenly said loudly, "Rear the sails and stop the ship." After a moment, the big ship stopped and looked towards Mie. Ye Huo nodded, stood up, and reached the front of the ship. Ye Huo pressed his hands toward the sea below. The next moment, a huge black space array with a diameter of 1 kilometer suddenly appeared in front of Ye Huo. After Yi Huo did this, he traveled hundreds of miles away and created a huge black space door according to the gourd. The next moment, Yi Huo returned to the Revolutionary Army ship Sky's path, sail, set sail. The big ship sailed slowly and submerged into the space array little by little. The next moment, the magic circle lit up with a burst of light, and the big ship disappeared. The next moment, it reappeared on the black magic circle. Ding! Congratulations to host for awakening the space teleportation array. 1000 times reward is triggered. Chapter 128, Torture of Admiral Kizaru. What happened? There was a black light flashing just now, it was dark, and then it suddenly lit up again. Why do I feel different? But it doesn't seem to be any different. It's clouds. Look, the clouds in the sky were in front of us before, but now they're behind us. The little beauty koala finally discovered something unusual. A group of revolutionary troops also looked at the clouds in the sky. Sure enough, there were clouds far in front of them. Now he ran far behind them. Our position has changed? Look at the compass. The angle of the compass has also changed, which shows that their position has changed a lot. The navigator took out a pen and paper and quickly calculated. But there was an incredible look in her eyes and she said, We actually sailed 100 nautical miles in an instant. The black circle just now made us move 100 nautical miles in an instant. This is really incredible. Green Bull looked at the clouds in the sky and exclaimed, he is worthy of being offered a bounty of 50 billion by Marine. It's really scary. 12. It seems that he is going to use this ability to instantly move his pirate group to the Marine headquarters and solve Marine. Then the world government will really fall. Green Bull is pessimistic about the future of Marine and world government. The next moment, Yi Huo had traveled back through time and landed on the Revolutionary Army headquarters ship. Green Bull looked at Yi Huo and said solemnly, Little boss, do you know what it means once you defeat Marine and the world government? Yi Huo narrowed his eyes slightly when he heard this, looked at the green cow and said, What do you want to say? The green ox looked at Yi Huo, and Yi Huo looked at the green ox. An oppressive atmosphere began to gather between the two. The originally noisy deck suddenly became quiet. Everyone looked at the two of them. Green Bull said slowly, If the Marine organization is eliminated, if the world government is overthrown, then the world will enter a state of disorder. By then, pirates will be everywhere, bandits will be rampant, and how many people will die in the world? Little boss, have you thought about all this? However, at this moment, Koala, who was standing aside, suddenly burst into flames. Her sweet voice suddenly became extremely sharp. Green Bull, have you ever thought about the cruelty of those celestial dragons? They treat people not as human beings, but as animals, even worse than animals. My. At this point, Koala's eyes turned red and he sobbed, Many of my relatives died in the hands of celestial dragons. Celestial dragons, just it shouldn't exist in this world. Marine is the lackey of the celestial dragons. They help the celestial dragons do evil. None of them is a good person. You are not a good person either. Yes, the Green Bull was confused. The rest of the Revolutionary Army also changed their eyes when looking at the Green Bull. The beauties who had talked and laughed with Green Bull also looked at him with indifferent eyes. Green Bull smiled bitterly, we can recruit Marine. Many people in Marine are ordinary people. If Marine can be turned into a revolutionary army, the disorder that will arise will be solved, and the establishment of a new government will be much easier. I am also thinking about the people all over the world. Long Wenyan smiled and said, This is a good idea, but I'm afraid Marine won't surrender to us so easily, right? It was not easy before, but now we have a little boss. I believe that with the strength and means of the little boss, it should not be difficult to make Marine surrender. Right, God. Yi Huo rubbed his forehead, You guys can only talk, but you let me do it. Okay, I'll do my best. At this time, Yi Huo remembered that he had not made a choice yet. 1. Super Multiple Space Teleportation Arrays. 2. Ultra Distance Teleportation Array. Yi Huo touched his chin and checked the difference between the two rewards. The Super Multiple Teleportation Arrays mean that there are many teleportation locations, and the distance is only 100 nautical miles. And it can be seen 100 nautical miles above the sea. If the opponent sees it, he will start to prepare, and the effect of the surprise attack will be greatly reduced. But if it is 100 miles, it becomes 1,000,000 miles. Then his power can be dropped directly from the impel down to Marine headquarters, or even Marijoy, the holy land of the celestial dragons. Yes, choose the ultra-distance teleportation array. Yi Huo made a choice. In the following time, the ship continued to sail. After about a month and a half, we finally arrived at Impel Down. At this time, Impel Down is either a prisoner or a pirate, and they are all desperados. Bloodshed occurs every day. Long frowned as he looked at the chaotic pirate prisoners. Let them manage these lawless guys. Can it be done? However, Yi Huo doesn't care about this. He left this mess to the dragon. Taking the Golden Lion with him, he went to the New World again to find Marco and Ace, the former members of the Whitebeard Pirates. Yi Huo also knows. If he killed Whitebeard himself, Marco and Ace would definitely hate him. But now the general trend is that they will definitely have a battle with Marine. He believes that Marco and Ace will join him in defeating Marine and fighting against the world government. Of course, Ye Huo also prepared for the worst. If the other party doesn't agree, then you can only use force. Ye Huo thought so in his heart. Golden Lion is very familiar with the sea. 357 With his leadership, Ye Huo quickly found Whitebeard's old team. In front of an archipelago, Ye Huo saw more than 40 warships. Although the flags have been changed, they still have the Whitebeard logo to show that they have not forgotten their father. What surprised Ye Huo was that he noticed a ship that should never be here. That's a Marine battleship. Marine and the Whitebeard pirates are at odds with each other, so how could they come together? Could it be? Ye Huo raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth. If that were the case, then he would be blamed for not remembering the old relationship. Marine Admiral, Ace, Marco and others in the room came out one after another and looked at Ye Huo, who had fallen to the ground. At that moment, Ace, Marco, and Diamond Josie showed endless anger in their eyes. Hey, Ye Huo, I really didn't expect to meet you here. Ye Huo narrowed his eyes slightly. Kizaru, what are you doing here? Do you want to join forces with Whitebeard's old men to deal with me? Hey, Ye Huo, you are so scary now, we can only unite to deal with you. Ye Huo grinned when he heard this and suddenly said, Kizaru, since you were caught by me, there is absolutely no reason to let you go. At that moment, Ye Huo drew out the long sword from his waist and slashed at Kizaru with a 1,000-meter sword beam. Chapter 129 Space Wormhole Ye Huo Instant Kill Admiral Kizaru. Powerful power surges. The super hard armament Haki is wrapped around the ordinary sword. The purple-black Haki forms a band of light, releasing a heart-stopping power. Ye Huo strode forward, each step heavier than the other. The ground trembled. Each step seemed to step on the hearts of Kizaru, Marco, Ace and others. A powerful and world-dominating aura suddenly emitted from Ye Huo's body. A strong wind swept through. Ye Huo suddenly raised his sword. Crack, crack, black thunder and lightning shined on the sword. Facing Kizaru, Ye Huo also used the power of the god of destruction. At that moment, Ye Huo slashed towards Kizaru with a sword. The 1,000-meter-long black sword will cut through the ground in an instant, creating a chasm. The dark lightning of destruction and sword gang slashed at Kizaru at extremely fast speeds. Yo, Ye Huo, you are really scary. You don't show any affection at all, just take action as soon as you come up. Kizaru's tone was still weird, but his expression was extremely serious. The light in his hand condensed into the Sky Zongyun sword. Kizaru holds the sword in both hands. Armament Haki condenses the sword body. Black armament Haki ribbons flutter. Kizaru's armed color has also been cultivated to the extreme. At that moment, Kizaru held the long sword with both hands and also slashed out with one sword. Two extremely powerful slashes collided instantly. Purple and black light fluttered in all directions like ribbons. The golden light exploded instantly, and the entire sky was shrouded in gold. A terrifying shockwave formed in the center of the explosion, instantly creating a huge crater on the ground. Dozens of warships in the distance were all destroyed in an instant. The nearby pirates were blown away. A huge explosion resounded throughout the world. The power of Ye Huo's sword is too powerful. Kizaru's slash was broken almost instantly. Kizaru's face changed drastically, his body turned into flash, disappeared from the place, and the next moment, he appeared behind Ye Huo. Yo, Ye Huo, your attack is really scary. Kizaru raised his right leg and kicked it fiercely towards Ye Huo. Ye Huo suddenly turned his hand and slashed towards Kizaru with a sword. At that moment, Huang guessed his position dozens of times. Ye Huo slashed out dozens of swords, but Kizaru dodged them all. Ye Huo was furious. The wormhole fruit in the internal space was immediately activated. With Ye Huo as the center, gates to dark space suddenly appeared one after another within a radius of thousands of miles. The space gate forms a huge sphere. Kizaru was tightly surrounded in the middle. Kizaru was slightly stunned, obviously not knowing the magical function of this space door. Then the next moment, Ye Huo stepped into the door of space and disappeared from his eyes. Kizaru seemed to realize something and hurriedly moved away from where he was. Sure enough, a sword slash suddenly struck him. The sword gang sank into the opposite space door, but two sword gangs jumped out from the other space door. Ye Huo kept sending out sword gangs, and the sword gangs kept shuttling through the gate of space. At that moment, there were thousands of black swords slashing through Kizaru's body in the sphere. Kizaru's face was extremely serious. Damn Ye Huo, when did he learn such pervertibility again? At this moment, he didn't dare to eliminate the elementalization. Because he knows it very well, as soon as he is released, he will be cut into countless pieces by the sword. But it won't work if it goes on like this. Just as Kizaru thought of this, suddenly a space door appeared behind him. A punch filled with dark fruit's ability hit his body. At that moment, Kizaru's fruit power dissipated instantly. Withdrew from the elemental state. Not good. Kizaru was shocked and hurriedly activated armament Haki to protect his whole body. However, the swords coming from all directions did not hit him. Instead, there was black and green wood wrapping around his body. At this moment, Kizaru felt his body become weak. Even Haki can't cast it. The fruit's ability cannot be called upon. Kizaru slowly looked back at Ye Huo and said helplessly, "Hey, Ye Huo, you are really scary. When did you have so many terrifying abilities?" "Yo yo yo." Ye Huo imitated Kizaru's tone and laughed, "Don't worry about it, I just want to ask you, will you join my team?" Ye Huo had no intention of killing Kizaru. The momentum I made just now was just to scare him so that he could negotiate now. Kizaru pouted, "Can I say no?" "Yes, but if you say no, I will chop off your head." "Hey, Ye Huo, you are really scary. If I had known, I shouldn't have come here." Looking at the two of them, Ye Huo shook his head in disappointment. "Originally, I wanted you to join my team, because you were Whitebeard's old team after all." "Ace, come back." Marco shouted. Even if Ace was willing to listen, Marco and the others could only rush forward. When Marco and Ace heard this, their faces turned red and white. Ye Huo leaves Kizaru under the care of the Golden Lion. He then walked towards Marco and Ace. "But you are too oily. In order to ensure that you don't do anything bad, I have been abusing you these days." "Okay, stop talking nonsense. I can tell you, even if I overthrow the world government and overthrow the celestial dragons, after I kick out some of the garbage in Marine and reenact the law, Marine will exist in another way. You can continue to serve as Marine Admiral." "Shut up!" Ace yelled and rushed towards Ye Huo in an instant. "Yo yo yo. Okay, I won't touch your bottom line." Kizaru sighed when he heard this and said slowly, "Old man, it's not that I don't want to help you, but that I really can't help you. He died in my hands. He died in the hands of a stronger man. When future generations mention this, they will feel happy for Whitebeard. Whitebeard deserved his death. But now you have disappointed me so much and embarrassed Whitebeard so much." Ye Huo smiled coldly, "Your face certainly doesn't matter, but Whitebeard's lifelong hero was ruined by you. But when others think about Whitebeard having incompetent sons like you, they can't help but sigh and say, what a pity. Whitebeard, the first hero, has such a group of ineffective sons. It really brings shame on him. Hey, there is such a good thing. Well, I promise you, I will join you. However, I will not do anything to my former Marine companions. This is my bottom line. You actually colluded with Marine to deal with me. Whitebeard's face has been completely embarrassed by you." Ace even said angrily, "I will kill you with my power and avenge my father. Our face is nothing." Seeing this, Ye Huo laughed loudly and said, "Well done, let me challenge your entire Whitebeard pirates alone." Chapter 130 I challenge all of you Whitebeard pirates. Ace gathered his right fist at his waist. A layer of armament Haki is attached to the fist. Orange burns on the fist. The next moment, Ace punched out fiercely. Fire punch impact. A sharp shout suddenly sounded. The power of the fire punch created by armament Haki plus the Mara fruit is more than 10 times stronger than the fire punch. The wind assisted the fire, and the fire borrowed the power of the wind to form a terrifying power, and it rushed towards Ye Huo in an instant. A bit of progress. Ye Huo snorted, and the super hard armament Haki in his body condensed into his fist again, and the energy of the sun's true fire also quickly condensed. But it's not nearly enough. Ye Huo shouted loudly and swung out his Japanese fist at the same time. The golden flame turned into a fire dragon, swirling around the purple-black Haki power, and instantly shattered Ace's fire fist impact. The powerful power rushed towards Ace in an instant. At the same time, Diamond Josie was covered in diamonds and crashed towards Ye Huo's left side. Ye Huo clenched his left fist tightly, and a white light group emerged. Ye Huo slammed into the space. Click! The space shattered, and with powerful concussion force, Shunzhong knocked Nachauzi away. Ye Huo, I'll fight you! Marco roared and turned into a half-phoenix. His palms turned into bird claws, with black armament Haki ribbons lingering on them, and blue flames releasing infinite power. Phoenix Seal. At that 820 moment, Marco roared and grabbed Ye Huo. Almost at the same time, Ye Huo bent the 5 fingers of his right hand. Little finger and ring finger together. Middle finger and index finger together. In an instant, Ye Huo transformed into a half-dragon, and the stone hand turned into a real dragon claw. Purple-black armament Haki is attached to it. The golden flame began to burn fiercely. Sun True Fire Dragon Flame Claw. At that moment, Ye Huo's Dragon Flame Claw collided with Marco's Phoenix Seal. Blue flames exploded covering the sky. The golden true fire of the sun burned everything, sweeping thousands of meters in all directions, gradually overpowering the blue flames. The black and purple ribbons condensed by armament Haki kept floating randomly. The powerful impact once again swept across all directions. Ace's figure was immediately sent flying backwards by the impact. The entire island was completely destroyed in an instant. I don't know how many pirates were affected. Ye Huo releases powerful power within his body. The true fire dragon flame claw of the sun scratched through Marco's Phoenix Seal and hit him on the shoulder. Boom! The golden flame exploded, and Marco's body was instantly blown away. If Ye Huo hadn't spared his efforts, Marco would have died under the golden flames, BCDB. Marco gasped for breath, the blue flames burning on his body, quickly repairing his body. It's really difficult. Ye Huo raised his right hand, and a black-green light appeared on the tip of his index finger. The next moment, countless strands shot out from his fingertips, forming a large net that immediately caught Marco. This is a move Ye Huo learned from Green Bull. Marco stirred up the flames, but they couldn't burn through the sacred tree. The sacred tree instantly wrapped around Marco's body. The energy of Marco Fruit was instantly suppressed, his body became heavy and weak, and he fell from midair. Foil Beasta attacked Ye Huo from behind. Black armament Haki surrounds a pair of western swords. Haki, a half-black belt, exudes great power. At that moment, countless red roses appeared in the sky. Although the blossoming red flowers are beautiful, they are deadly. Just when the red flower was about to fall on Ye Huo, a dark empty sword gate suddenly appeared behind Ye Huo and in front of him. Beasta's body sank directly into the door of space and emerged in front of Ye Huo. Ye Huo kicked him and hit Beasta in the back. Beasta's body was thrown away like a cannonball, hit the wall hard, and fell down weakly. Except for Marco Fightenly, everyone else is very easy to deal with. Ye Huo punches a minion. In the blink of an eye, all the old members of the Whitebeard Pirates were wiped out. Then it was tied up with the power of the sacred tree. Marco, Ace, Josie, Beasta and others looked at Ye Huo angrily, swearing loudly at Ye Huo, but Ye Huo seemed not to hear it. But at this moment, suddenly there was a loud rumble in the distance. Ye Huo turned around and looked. Just then, the golden lion flew out upside down. There was actually a deep blood mark on his chest. Ye Huo stared slightly and asked, "What's going on?" Golden Lion looked ugly. "Boss, I just wanted to take a look inside to see if there is any devil fruit, so I can give it to you, boss." "Damn it, I just found one, but a big fat man came out of it and I didn't pay attention. Boss, I really didn't pay attention. I'm not blind to this. The bastard, took advantage of me and chopped me with a knife. Broke my hockey, chopped me. Boss, you have to stand up for me." Ye Huo looked into the distance, where smoke and dust were everywhere, and a heavy footsteps came from it. After a moment, a figure emerged from the smoke. After a moment, the figure walked out and stopped in front of Ye Huo. They were all tall and tall, taller than Whitebeard, thick at the top and thin at the bottom. Their hair hung down to their legs, with police hair tied into whips around their ears. They had 3 terrifying scars on their bodies. The most eye-catching thing was that he had the same hair as Whitebeard. It is curved upward, but more slender, and holds a large knife very similar to Whitebeard's. Yin Hong's blood was slowly flowing downward from the mouth and onto the ground. Ye Huo recognized him immediately. This is Whitebeard too. Edward Wabel. Wabel picked his nose with his little finger and stared at Ye Huo. He is powerful and can feel the equally powerful Ye Huo. "Who are you?" Wabel asked angrily. "Why did you hit my man?"
"Your people." Ye Huo looked at Marco and others. However, at this moment, Wei Buer suddenly took action and came to Ye Huo in an instant, slashing Ye Huo with a knife. Ye Huolong raised his claws and grabbed the blade. Wabel was stunned, obviously not expecting that the man in front of him could grab his knife with only one hand, and it was still the blade. "You are so far behind your father that you even attacked me secretly." Armament Haki exploded from Ye Huo's left hand and hit Wabel's abdomen. Wabel let go of the sword, attached Armament Haki to both hands, and instantly faced Ye Huo's fist. A white ball of light appeared on Ye Huo's fist again, and the power of Super Shock Fruit exploded. Ye Huo kicked the space. The space instantly shattered, and powerful shocks and super hard armed power erupted at the same time. Wabel's hand bones shattered instantly, and his whole body flew backwards. At the same time, a devil fruit fell from his mouth. Ye Huo picked up the devil fruit and asked Golden Lion, "What kind of fruit is this?" Golden Lion hurriedly said, "This is bird fruit, fantasy beast species, turkey fruit." "Turkey fruit. What can the 10,000 times reward become?" Ye Huo swallowed it in one gulp. Ding. Congratulations to the host for getting the bird fruit, phantom beast species, and turkey fruit. 1,000 times reward is triggered. Chapter 131. 10,000 times reward, Immortal Fire Phoenix. 1. 10,000 bird fruits, phantom beast species, and turkey fruits. 2. A bird fruit, divine beast species, divine fire immortal phoenix fruit. The immortal fire phoenix. Ye Huo checked the introduction and looked moved. Markel's phoenix is already very powerful. If you are seriously injured, the burning flame can restore you to the original state. But the ability of the immortal fire phoenix is even more domineering. Even if he suffered a huge blow, then he will be reborn from the ashes, and the reborn phoenix will become even more powerful. It is immortal and gets stronger and stronger, so it is called the divine fire phoenix. This is definitely a really powerful devil fruit. It can be said that with this fruit, then it would be difficult for Ye Huo to die even if he wanted to. Ye Huo felt excited in his heart. Ye still wants to awaken his abilities now. But we have to deal with Whitebeard 2 first. At this time, Whitebeard 2 rushed towards Ye Huo again. Ye Huo was not in the mood to tangle with him. Doors to many spaces. The next moment, Whitebeard 2 was surrounded by 10,000 people from all directions. Ye Huo sank into the space gate, and then kept jumping in the space gate. Green light appeared on the fingertips, then pointed towards Whitebeard 2. Countless branches burst out from Ye Huo's fingertips, forming a large net that instantly enveloped Whitebeard 2. Whitebeard 2 wielded his machete and slashed away. However, at that moment, Ye Huo quickly shuttled through the various space gates, and the 10,000 space gates seemed to release countless branches at the same time. Whitebeard 2 was chopping wildly, but it was finally difficult to take care of everyone. Ye Huo finally found an opening and embraced him with the power of magic in an instant. The sacred tree suppresses Whitebeard's life force and the fruit's ability. He couldn't move at all. Ye Huo asked Golden Lion to look at these old Whitebeard troops. He began to awaken the ability of the immortal Fire Phoenix. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. 3 days passed. Ye Huo just sat there cross-legged. Whitebeard was so hungry that his chest pressed against his back. I don't even have the energy to curse. Ye Huo was still sitting there cross-legged. Finally, on the morning of the 4th day, Ye Huo finally slowly opened his eyes. A smile appeared on his lips. Little boss, have you awakened a new ability? Golden Lion's eyes flashed with excitement, as if he was the one who awakened the ability. Yeah, Ye Huo nodded. Little boss, let me see what kind of abilities you have. 11. Don't worry, you'll see it soon. Ye Huo walked up to Ace and Marco and said, tell me, how can you surrender to me? Marco closed his eyes and said calmly, kill if you want. If I, Marco, frown, I am not my father's son. I'm not interested in your heads, but I am interested in your helping me. Go ahead, as long as you ask for it, I will agree to it. Ace sneered, we want to chop off your head, will you agree? The corners of Ye Huo's lips raised, if you agree to chop off my head, I can let you chop it off. I knew you wouldn't. Ace's words stopped abruptly, his mouth froze, his eyes fixed on Ye Huo, and he said in disbelief, what did you say? Ye Huo crossed his arms across his chest and said calmly, if I ask you to chop off my head, will you agree to join my team and help us overthrow the rule of the world government and celestial dragons? Hearing this, Marco looked at Ye Huo with a surprised look, and then said, Ace, don't be fooled, he is playing tricks on us, how could he let us chop off his head? Ace pondered for a moment, then sneered, Ye Huo, no need to trick me anymore. Before he finished speaking, Ye Huo swung his sword and slashed down, releasing the restraints of the sacred tree on Marco, Ace and others. Ye Huo stuck the sword on the ground, opened his hands, looked at Marco and Ace and said, come on, use your best strength to chop me. Marco and Ace still didn't believe it, but Beasta had already taken action. At that moment, a flash of sword light flashed, and Ye Huo's stone head separated. The head fell to the ground. The body fell hard to the ground. Marco, Ace sad face, oh. For a moment, the captains of the Whitebeard pirates all stared wide-eyed, unable to believe the scene before them. Beasta, actually, cut off Ye Huo's head. That man is powerful as a god. E.T. Beasta looked at Ye Huo whose stone head was separated on the ground. He looked at his sword again. He thought it was almost like a dream. Ask for flowers. He actually killed this god-like man. Is it possible? This is impossible for humans. At this moment, Ye Huo rolled his eyes and looked at Beasta and said, Beasta, you actually attacked me secretly. It's so disrespectful. Beasta's expression changed. You're not dead. Then, Ye Huo's head and body suddenly burned with blood-red flames. The flames jumped up one after another and slowly gathered together. The flames gradually dissipated, forming a brand new Ye Huo. Ye Huo touched his neck. There was no discomfort at all. Almost at the same time, the system sound sounded. Ding. Congratulations to host for awakening Phoenix Nirvana. 1000 times reward is triggered. The mighty Phoenix Nirvana. Ultra short Phoenix Nirvana. 000. Ye Huo sounded a little confused about these two rewards. I checked it carefully now. The super powerful Phoenix Nirvana means that after Nirvana, the strength will be greatly improved, that is, the power of the flame will be greatly improved. The ultra short in the ultra short Phoenix Nirvana refers to time. It takes time for the Phoenix to undergo Nirvana. And this time is about 10 seconds. If the other party knows this shortcoming of his in advance, throwing seawater or sea stone on him may hurt him. Thinking of this, Ye Huo already made a decision in his heart. I choose the super short Phoenix Nirvana. Ye Huo's attack is already powerful enough. What he needs now is to save his life. Ultra short Phoenix Nirvana can shorten the time from 10 seconds to 0.0001 seconds. It can be said that Nirvana and rebirth can be completed in an instant. Now Ye Huo can say it without any politeness. It is extremely difficult to kill him. Ye Huo looked at Marco, Ace and others and said, I have fulfilled my promise, now it is your turn to fulfill your promise. Marco sighed, okay, the Whitebeard pirates will join your team. Marco, Ace roared, Ace, we can't embarrass Dad, we can't keep our word. Ye Huo successfully accepted the powerful force of the Whitebeard pirates. 3 days later, on the vast sea, a warship stopped Ye Huo's fleet. A man who claimed to be able to defeat the 4 emperors with one punch walked up to the deck and shouted, Who is Ye Fan? while shaking his fist. Chapter 132. A punch that can instantly kill the four emperors. Kick, kick, kick. A revolutionary soldier quickly went downstairs into the cabin and knocked on Ye Huo's door. Dang dang dang. Come in. Ye Huo opened his eyes, and the revolutionary general in front of him straightened his body and said, Big leader, there is a warship from the kingdom of Prudence blocking our way, and their king wants to see you. King of the kingdom of Prudence. Ye Huo frowned. He has no connection with the kingdom of Prudence. Not familiar with their king either. What do you see yourself doing? Ye Huo strode out. Come on deck. Opposite is a giant battleship more than 300 meters long. There is really a king in front of the battleship. Wearing a crown, a red and blue cape, and golden boxing gloves on his hands. At this point he was still punching rapidly. Ye Huo recognized it. 617 is Elisabello II, who is known as the King of War and can instantly kill the four emperors with one punch. At the same time, he is also the king of the kingdom of Prudence. Are you Ye Huo? Elisabello II gasped while pumping his fists. Ye Huo nodded. I don't know you, what do you want from me? Elizabeth II said, I heard that you want to overthrow the world government and overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons. I want to see if you are as powerful as the legend says and if you can really do it. If you can block my punch, I will admit that you have that power, and I will join your team and help you overthrow the world government. Ye Huo stared slightly, then nodded slowly and said, Okay, let me see how powerful your punch, which is said to be able to kill four emperors instantly, is. After saying this, Ye Huo cast Moonwalk and jumped into the air. Then Ye Huo said to Golden Lion, please help him. Okay. Golden Lion jumped to the side of the second division of Elisabello II and used the ability of Lion Fruit. The Golden Lion sent Elisabello II into the sky, but he did not go up. He had heard that Elisabello II's punching power was extremely terrifying. I also know Ye Huo's powerful strength. He didn't want to be hit by the two attacks. Elisabello II was still waving. Ye Huo said, how long will it take for you to punch me? Elisabello II said, it will be ready soon. You'd better prepare in advance. As he said that, Ye's momentum suddenly changed. His eyes were red and glowed with a dazzling red light. An incomparable aura comparable to that of the four emperors emanated from Elisabello II's body. Waves of steam rose around him. That is the manifestation of flesh and blood running to the ultimate level. The terrifying and powerful armament haki began to condense on Elisabello II's right fist. Colorful ribbons of armed colors fluttered in the air, thousands of meters long. The terrifying pressure suddenly fell in front of Ye Huo's body. At that moment, Ye Huo looked slightly solemn. Ye Huo pinches the seal with both hands. The energy of the sacred tree fruit began to gather rapidly, and finally condensed into a 2-kilometer-high Senju sacred tree that transformed into a Buddha. Eyes Rinnegan emerges. The purple-black energy forms a purple-black armor on the surface of the Senju sacred tree. An extremely heavy force suddenly spread out. At the same time, the purple-black armament haki is attached to it again. Ye Huo just finished these. The power of Elisabello II has also reached its peak. His body and haki had turned red and black. At that moment, he suddenly punched out. Click. There was a loud noise and the punch was in the air. Ripples like water waves suddenly appeared in the space. The red and black haki radiates in all directions like a mountain top. Ripples in space kept appearing in circles. Huge roaring sounds continued. An unparalleled powerful force instantly hit Ye Huo's Senju sacred tree. At that moment, dazzling red light filled the world. Huge shock waves kept hitting all directions. The red and black bully exploded into the air with a terrifying explosion. The sky turned black and red for a while, as if the doomsday sword was coming. There were waves on the sea surface. The soldiers of the Whitebeard pirates and Elisabello II looked at the sky in shock. All the while holding on to the big ship. The waves kept crashing against the big ship. The ship rises and falls, and may be overturned by huge waves at any time. Finally, the power of that terrifying blow began to dissipate. The blood-red light gradually receded. The red and black haki energy also dissipated invisible. Elisabello II gasped violently. His body was as red as coals of fire. He raised his head and stared straight ahead. Where the red light dissipated, the 2-kilometer-high giant was still standing there. The purple-black scales were intact. There isn't even the slightest trace on the surface. Elisabello II's pupils shrank suddenly when he saw this, and he lost his voice and said, how is this possible? Elisabello II's eyes were full of shock. No one knows the power of his punch better than him. His punch once penetrated the enemy's fortress. He has defeated countless strong men. How could it be impossible to cause any harm to the man in front of me? But, the fact is the fact. Ye Huo's Shuzuo is extremely powerful in his own right. Plus the super stiff armament haki. How could Elisabello II be able to shake it? However, Ye Huo still smiled and said, the power of this punch is pretty good, but it's just not strong enough to hit. If the energy of your punch can be released at one point, maybe you can break through my defenses. Elisabello II sighed when he heard this. I can send out such an attack, which is already the limit. If I want to concentrate, I simply can't do it. Ye Huo, Now I believe that you have the power to overthrow the world government and overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons. I, Elisabello II, am willing to lead Prudence to join your team. Work together to overthrow the world government and overthrow the rule of the celestial dragons. Quote. Ye 0.5 Fire removed the power of Rinnegan and Fruit Hockey, laughed loudly and said, okay, with the participation of King Prudence, the process of overthrowing the world government will be accelerated again, ha ha ha. Ye Huo was very happy. Although he has great strength and power. But who would think too little about power? It would be best if all the powers of the world joined his ranks. Then it would be better to overthrow the world government in one fell swoop. However, at this moment, a discordant voice suddenly sounded from a distance. We have seen your defensive capabilities. But defense alone cannot defeat world government. If you can penetrate mine, the world's best defense. Then, you do have the power to defeat the world government, and we are willing to follow you. The sound gradually got closer, and a pirate ship came from behind. Chapter 133 Breaking through the absolute defense of the pirate world in one fell swoop. Ye Huo heard the sound and looked over. He wanted to see who was so arrogant, claiming to be absolutely defensive in front of himself. Then he saw a pirate standing at the front of the deck of the pirate ship behind him. He has a grass-green coxcomb head, an eye pattern under his right eye, wears a closed ring, and has a ghostly face. He has a black wing-shaped half-ring tattoo on his chest. Wearing a purple coat, plaid trousers, and a short sword around his waist. Bartolomeo. Ye Huo was slightly surprised. Why did this little guy appear here? Ha 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 ha. I didn't expect that even you knew my name. It seems that my barrier fruit is indeed an absolute defense. Bartolomeo looked at Ye Huo with excitement. The golden lion on the side snorted coldly. You brat, who do you think you are? Are you arrogant here? At that moment, Golden Lion made 2 slashes. Bartolomeo made a strange gesture. Suddenly there was a transparent barrier in front of him. Boom boom. 2 slashes struck the barrier, making a huge roar. The slash was shattered, but there wasn't even a trace on the barrier. Bartolomeo picked his ears with his little finger, then blew a breath and said with a smile, 12 is an old disabled man with no legs, but his skills are quite flexible. Unfortunately, in terms of my absolute defense, any attack will not work, ha ha ha. The golden lion was furious and flew up in an instant and rushed behind Bartolomeo. Bartolomeo immediately made the barrier into a sphere and wrapped himself in it. Golden Lion's attack has no effect at all. Bartolomeo sneered, a disabled person without legs has such a bad temper. Golden Lion was furious, but Ye Huo said at this time, okay Golden Lion, you can't break through his defense, step aside. Golden Lion left angrily. Ye Huo looked at Bartolomeo and said, boy, although your defense is good, it is still vulnerable to me. How could Bartolomeo hear this? He smiled and said, really? Okay, then let me see how vulnerable my attack is. Ye Huo smiled when he heard this, what a careless little thing. After saying that, Ye Huo mobilized the power of destroying the god of thunder in his body. Powerful destructive power was released from Ye Huo's body. Taiko drums appeared around Ye Huo's body. The energy gathered in his hand and condensed into a golden rod. Seeing Ye Huo making a move, Bartolomeo hurriedly blocked all the barrier fruits in front of him. At the same time, the thickness of the barrier is increased. He is not a fool and knows Ye Huo is terrible. But he believed even more that the defensive power of his barrier fruit was definitely the best in the sea. Absolutely no power can break his barrier. Bartolomeo has always believed so. Ye Huo waved the golden rod and struck the Taiku on the left and right shoulders. At that moment, the Taiku on both shoulders suddenly released streaks of black thunder. These black thunders gathered together. It condensed into a super powerful destructive thunder dragon that was 700 meters long. The voltage of 600 billion volts filled the surrounding area with lightning energy. The hairs of the people nearby stood on end. Bartolomeo's crested head turned into a hedgehog. Feeling the strong power, Bartolomeo felt for the first time that his barrier fruit might not be able to stop the terrifying black thunder dragon in front of him. Bartolomeo swallowed. The conversation has already been spoken. There is no reason to retreat now. Come on. Bartolomeo roared, protecting his body firmly. In that moment, Ye Huo activated the Destruction Thunder Dragon and instantly crashed into Bartolomeo's barrier fruit. The Destruction Thunder Dragon instantly hit the top of the barrier fruit. The terrifying penetrating power broke through the barrier in an instant. A thunder dragon flew over his head. It hit the sea 100 nautical miles away. The dark thunder in the distance exploded into a huge black electric ball. The light shines, the shock wave sets off waves, and the terrifying explosion sound comes from far and near, as if it is exploding in the ears. Everyone covered their ears. After a while, the strong wind came, the waves rolled, and the rain poured down. Bartolomeo was wet from the rain, but he was still in shock and had not recovered. His barrier fruit is clearly an absolute defense. Before he came, he had tested the fist of Elisabello too. As a result, the barrier was not damaged at all. But why did he get in front of this Ye Huo? Is the ability of my own barrier fruit so vulnerable? Lost. Bartolomeo felt disappointed. His companion came over and patted Bartolomeo on the shoulder and said, "Captain, you deserve to lose this time." Bartolomeo's body trembled. Only then did he react. Who was his opponent? His opponent was Whitebeard, who killed one of the 4 emperors. Bigmom, Kaido, red hair, who lost consecutively to 4 emperors, was not even a match for 4 emperors. It was natural that he should lose to him. Bartolomeo burst out laughing, leaned next to Ye Huo and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha ha, boss, from now on you will be my boss. I will always be your little brother. You kill people, I set fire. You are playing with women, I will guard the gate for you. You go to attack the world government, I will cheer for you. You invade Mary Georgia, I will open the way for you to resist the flag." Ye Huo kicked Bartolomeo on the buttocks and cursed with a smile, "What metaphors are you talking about?" Bartolomeo rubbed his butt and laughed, "Boss, I found out everything about you when I came here. I heard that you have eaten a lot of devil fruit now. Boss, you are really powerful. I can't bear the energy even after eating one devil fruit. If I eat another one, I'll probably explode and die." Hearing this, Ye Huo glanced at Bartolomeo and said, "Boy, did you get a devil fruit too?" "Hey ha ha ha, I can't hide anything from you, boss. I just got a devil fruit. Third brother, bring over the devil fruit I prepared for boss." Not long after, Bartolomeo's men came over with a box. Opening the lid of the box, there was a strange fruit inside. There are spiral patterns on the peel. Ye Huo glanced at Bartolomeo and asked, "What kind of fruit is this?" "This, I don't know what it's called specifically. But his previous owner could turn body parts into knives or something." Ye Huo was stunned. Could this be cutting fruit? "I don't know what kind of fruit it can become after being multiplied 10,000 times. Chapter 134. 10,000 times reward for super gods. Space cutting fruit. Ye Huo was not polite and swallowed the fruit in one gulp. For a moment, Golden Lion, Ace, Marco, Elisabello II, and Bartolomeo looked at Ye Huo at the same time. They are all guessing. Will Ye Huo explode and die if he eats this fruit? Devil fruit is all equally unpalatable. Energy surges through the body. The system sounded at the same time. Ding. Congratulations to host for getting a cutting fruit. Thousands of times the reward is triggered. 1. 10,000 Paramesha cut fruits. 2. A super divine space cutting fruit. Super divine system. Space cutting. Ye Huo's heart moved. As long as the fruit abilities related to super gods and space are extremely powerful. Space cutting. Could it be possible to cut open space? Ye Huo hurriedly checked the ability of super divine space to cut fruits. Super divine space cutting fruit can be used for space cutting. Ye Huo's face suddenly showed joy. Sure enough, you can cut space. Okay, it's really good. Ye Huo now started to have crazy fruit awakening again. Time passes day by day. On the 5th day, Ye Huo finally walked out of the room. Bartolomeo immediately came up and said with a smile, "Boss, have you awakened your abilities?" Ye Huo said, "You can use the ability of the barrier fruit again." Bartolomeo's mouth twitched. He was shadowed by Ye Huo's previous blow. He smiled and said, "Boss, why don't you just use your new abilities towards the sea? Stop talking nonsense. If you don't use the barrier fruit ability, I'll let you do the experiment." Bartolomeo's face turned bitter, and he could only make strange gestures with his hands again, forming a transparent barrier. "Boss, be careful not to hurt me." Bartolomeo's legs were a little weak. "That's verbose, stand still." Ye Huo raised his right hand and extended his index finger, with a black zigzag-like pattern appearing on the fingertip. The next moment, Mie's finger pointed toward the space in front of him. Immediately afterwards, a strange scene appeared. Start with Ye Huo's fingertips. The space suddenly cracked open with a dark slash. The cut mark instantly extended to 100 meters away, and reached a width of about 1 meter, hitting Bartolomeo's barrier. Bartolomeo's barrier was instantly cut open. Bartolomeo felt an extremely sharp force completely tearing his barrier apart. Shivering with fright, the lazy donkey rolled and hurriedly escaped. Bartolomeo looked at the crack still in midair in horror. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead. What kind of ability is this? It can actually tear the sky apart. Horrible, the boss is getting more and more terrifying. Ye Huo nodded as he looked at the space tear he had just realized. The power is not bad. Ding. Congratulations to host for awakening the space blade. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. Super many space blades. 2. Super powerful space blade. Ye Huo looked at the 2 rewards and pondered slightly. It stands to reason that the power of the space blade is already very powerful. He should choose a larger number of super space blades. Can cause greater damage. However, considering that it is easy to accidentally injure your own people. And it would be bad if someone also had space-related abilities and could block the space blade. Moreover, the range of the space blade is too short, only 100 meters. But the power of the super powerful space blade is not only greater. And the length has also been increased to 1,000 meters. This length is sufficient. Then, I choose the super powerful space blade. Ye Huo has just finished selecting. Suddenly, a powerful momentum suddenly rose in the distance. Ye Huo immediately turned his head. Then I saw streaks of dark armament hockey striking into the air like streaks of lightning. Ye Huo stared. A small boat floated from the sea. There were two people standing in the boat. The man in front is wearing a black top hat, a burgundy patterned shirt, and a black windbreaker. The eagle's eyes were extremely sharp, staring at him. Endless armament hockey super circles around the strongest blade black tuya in his hand. Behind him stood a green algae head. At that moment, Hawkeye swung down the black sword Yi. A huge sword with a length of 1,000 meters split the sea surface and headed towards Ye Huo. Ye Huo didn't move, he was waiting for the sword to strike. Wen Jian Gang was only 1,000 meters away from him. Ye Huo raised his right hand, and a black blade appeared on the tip of his index finger. Point your fingertips forward. Super powerful space blade. In an instant, a dark space blade cut through the space, instantly defeating Hawkeye's slash. The sword gang exploded, and black sword energy penetrated the sea surface vertically and horizontally, setting off bursts of water columns. Huge roars came and went. The eyes of the green grass leader on the boat were filled with shock. Is this the man you said is more powerful than you in swordsmanship? Green grass head looked in disbelief as he picked up the space crack in midair. Is this man's sword energy so powerful? There was also deep shock in Eagle Eye's eyes. I didn't expect that his strength would grow to such a terrifying level after not seeing him for just 1 year. No wonder he dared to openly resist the world government, and even threatened to attack Mariajoy, the holy land of celestial dragons. This man is far beyond my comparison. If you want to learn powerful swordsmanship, he is definitely your best master. Why? There was an astonishing light in the green algae head's eyes. He grinned and said slowly, I want to learn swordsmanship from him and then defeat him. Hawkeye said slowly, I want to see if the gap between you and I has narrowed after a year of not seeing each other. Now it seems that instead of narrowing, it has actually gotten bigger. It seems that I will not be able to catch up with you in this life. Quote. He took Zoro and jumped onto Ye Huo's ship. The eagle eye looked at Zoro. Ye Huo turned his head and recognized Zoro. Are you so optimistic about him? Ye Huo looked at Eagle Eye in surprise. Seeing Eagle Eye's firm gaze, he said nothing more. Okay, I promise you, take out the fruit and let me see what it is. Fruit. Hawkeye added, I am willing to join your force and give you another devil fruit. Hawkeye glanced at Zoro approvingly. Ye Huo looked back at Eagle Eye and said, are you kidding? Who is it? There is a successor to Kendo. This man will definitely become a great swordsman in the future. But Nuos, there may be someone who can rival you in swordsmanship in the future. Hawkeye solemnly said, although he is still young now, he has unlimited potential in the future. Your swordsmanship is better than mine, and I hope you will teach him. You don't need to teach him, just let him stay with you. How much he can learn depends on his ability. Zoro's eyes were fixed on Ye Huo, full of fighting spirit. Hawkeye inserted Black Blade Knight behind him. Oh, there is such a person. Hearing this, Ye Huo shook his head and said, I don't have that interesting nephew. Seeing this, Ye Huo smiled and said, Eagle Eye, you're going to attack your old friend when you get here. Chapter 135. The bone fruit is rewarded 10,000 times the amount of the super divine bone fruit. Hawkeye took out a fruit from under his cloak and handed it to Ye Huo. This is a fruit that looks like a banana, also full of spiral patterns. Ye Huo directly stuffed the fruit into his mouth. It's still so unpalatable. The fruit quickly turned into a warm current flowing into the body. Ding. Congratulations to host for getting a bone fruit. Close black lens bracket. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. 10,000 paramesha bone fruits. 2. A super divine bone fruit. Ye Huo looked at the introduction of the divine bone fruit carefully. Sacred bone fruit. Sacred bone fruit can promote bone regeneration and rapid growth, and the grown bones are very hard. Close black lens bracket. Ye Huo knew how powerful this fruit was just by reading the beginning. I choose a paramesha sacred bone fruit. After Ye Huo made his choice, he left Hawkeye and others behind. Go alone to awaken new abilities. Within a short period of time. Ye Huo has eaten too many fruits. Devil fruit that many people will never get in their lifetime. He has already eaten more than a dozen pills. Everyone wants to see how many evil fruits Ye Huo can eat. When will he be overwhelmed by the power of devil fruit? Or become a monster? Time flies. 7 days have passed in the blink of an eye. Ye Huo finally ended the retreat. Ye Huo is in high spirits, as if he is tireless. When the eagle saw Ye Huo coming out, he couldn't help but ask, have you awakened your ability? Ye Huo nodded. Come, help me try my new ability. As he spoke, Ye Huo raised his left hand, and a bone appeared in the palm of his left hand. Ye Huo grabbed the bone, pulled it out, and pulled out a bone sword. The bone sword is white in color, about 3 feet tall, the blade is quite slender and thin, and the edge is extremely sharp. Is this the power of the fruit? Something interesting. Ye Huo held the bone sword and eagle eye and said, use your black sword to attack me. My black sword is always the strongest sword. Hawkeye's voice paused, and the implication was, your bones can't stop my sword at all. I know your sword is the strongest sword, that's why I want you to attack me. Okay, stop talking nonsense and get started. After Ye Huo finished speaking, he held the hilt of the sword with his right hand and slashed towards Eagle Eye. Hawkeye drew out the black knife in an instant, and Ye Huo's swords were chopped together. Neither of them used haki, relying purely on the power of the sword and bone itself. When there was a soft sound, but neither the knife nor the bones were damaged. Hawkeye was surprised. He took a closer look at the bone sword in Ye Huo's hand. There really wasn't any damage at all. His black sword is a peerless sword. Cutting gold and breaking jade, cutting iron like mud. If you were to chop someone, all the skin and bones would be cut off in an instant. But right now, he can't cut off even a single section. Ye Huo continued, you use armament haki. Hawkeye nodded. Haki lingers on the black knife. The next moment, the two slashed at each other again. This time, the bone sword in Ye Huo's palm broke. However, almost at the same time, the system's voice sounded slowly. Ding. Congratulations to host for awakening the bone sword. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. Extra long bone sword. 2. Super hard bone sword. Ye Huo almost didn't think about it. He said directly, I choose the super hard bone sword. Ye Huo pulled out a bone sword from his left hand again. This time the bone sword is extremely different from before. First the color changed to jet black. It looks extremely hard and sharp. The sword body has become thicker, but the blade is thinner and sharper. There are also strange purple-red patterns on the blade of the bone sword. The pattern is extremely beautiful and gorgeous. It adds a bit of bloody beauty to the bone sword. Just one glance tells people that this is an absolute killing weapon. Here, try again. Ye Huo raised the bone sword high, and Hawkeye used haki again, hovering around the black sword. The next moment, the bone sword collided with the black sword and tangled with haki. Just listen to a soft sound. The black sword and the bone sword made the sound of gold and iron clashing. The black sword was bounced away by the backlash, and the sword BCFH body trembled slightly, letting out a slight sword roar. However, the bone sword is still very stable. Not even an ounce of trembling. Moreover, the blade of the bone sword is still very sharp, with no gaps at all. This time it was Eagle Eye's turn to be surprised, and he immediately said, I only used 1 point of strength just now, this time I used 3 sutras. Ye Huo also wanted to know the endurance of the bone sword. Okay, try again. So there was another collision. The tyrannical Jian gang stood directly on the bone sword. The bone sword is still not damaged at all. I'll use 5 points this time. After another collision, the bone sword was still not damaged at all. Ye Huo, I'm going to use my full strength this time. Hawkeye clenched the black knife with both hands. The powerful armament haki surrounds the black sword like black lightning. The terrifying power exploded at that moment. The black knife slashed out instantly and collided with the bone sword. When there was a sound of metal clashing, the terrifying sword gang slashed directly into the air. If you are careful, you can see that there is an extra gap in the center of the black sword. This is the bone sword's sword gang that cuts through the black sword. Hawkeye was finally shocked. He took a closer look at this beautiful and dazzling bone sword. There was still no damage at all on the sword's edge. Hawkeye gasped. Then he said, can you let me take a closer look? Ye Huo nodded and handed the bone sword to Eagle Eye. Eagle Eye looked left and right, and then said, can you let me look at it for a few more days? Ye Huo smiled and said, ha ha ha, what do you mean by watching for a few more days? As the saying goes, swords are given to heroes, I will give you this bone sword. Hawkeye was delighted. In that case, I won't be polite to you. Hawkeye carefully put the ancient sword away. This is a peerless sword that is more precious than the black sword. Ye Huo naturally needs to awaken a few more abilities. Just when Ye Huo thought of this, observation haki suddenly felt a wind and sand sweeping towards him. At that moment, a sand blade slashed down at Ye Huo. Who still wants to resist themselves? Sacred Bone Forest. In an instant, with Ye Huo itself as the center, countless bone swords were formed within a radius of 1,000 meters and thrust out from the ground. With such a powerful fruit, it's worth using the friendship of the world's best swordsman with a bone sword. 1,000 times reward is triggered. So after 7 days, revealing the true appearance of a pirate, a dozen huge bone swords suddenly appeared behind Ye Huo, piercing the sand blade. 1. Super wide sacred bone forest. Ye Huo awakened his second ability, the divine bone forest. At that time, a forest of super hard sacred bones will be created at the marine headquarters. Ye Huochang has experienced the sweetness of super hard divine bones. Yellow sand condenses on Ye Huo's head. So I chose the super hard sacred bone forest. 2. Super hard sacred bone forest. Chapter 136. 10,000 times reward, the strongest fruit of Logia. Pirates have big back hair. Wearing a black fur coat. There is a long transverse scar on his face. His right ear was slapped and he was smoking a cigar. The left hand is a golden hook, shining with cold light. It is Crocodile who is known as the king of the desert. The sharp bone sword easily pierced Crocodile's sand blade. Penetrated but his body. Crocodile looked at the bone sword under him, and then at Ye Huo. Yours is just like the legend, with many fruits. This is also your new ability. Ye Huo turned around and looked back at Crocodile and said, we have known each other before. Isn't it very kind of you to attack me without any warning? Crocodile grinned and said, if you can't even use my methods, I don't think you have to overthrow the world government, let alone the rule of the celestial dragons. As he spoke, Crocodile retreated and flew into the air. The next moment, Crocodile's whole body released powerful power. He raised his left hand, and a large amount of sand began to gather towards his left hand. Finally, a sand sword was formed. The sand sword has black armament Haki attached to it. Haki formed black strips, floating in the air. A powerful force suddenly burst out. The next moment, Crocodile raised his left hand and then slashed it down towards Ye Huo. The desert sword, 1,000-meter-long terrifying sand blade instantly struck in front of Ye Huo. Almost at the same time, huge black bone swords hundreds of meters long appeared on the shipboard in front of Ye Huo. The bone sword met the terrifying sand blade again in an instant. Boom boom boom. Explosions continued to sound. The huge bone sword stabbed the sand shinobi to pieces. Yellow sand fell from the sky. Crocodile frowned. The next moment, his arm grew huge and turned into a crescent-shaped slash to attack Ye Huo. This slash has the effect of absorbing moisture. Even bones will become extremely fragile if their moisture is absorbed. At that moment, the half-moon-shaped slash struck Ye Huo again. Ye Huo still condensed his bone sword to block this slash. The yellow sand erodes and absorbs the water vapor inside the bone sword, but there is no water vapor at all in the bone sword. The bone sword remained the same, but the next moment, in the sea, countless bone swords suddenly exploded. The sea water splashed, and the bone sword stained with water instantly rushed towards Crocodile's body. The speed of the bone sword is too fast and the range is too large. Crocodile had no time to react. His weakness is water. His body was touched by sea water. He immediately retreated from the elements. The sharp bone sword stopped in front of his eyebrows. Drops of sweat dripped from his forehead. Crocodile sighed. Sure enough, I still lost. Ye Huo absorbed the power of the divine bone fruit, looked at Crocodile and smiled. Welcome to my team. After Ye Huo introduced everyone to Crocodile, Crocodile Bartolomeo smiled and said, Crocodile, we all brought devil fruit for the boss when we came. You're here, so you won't be empty-handed, right? Crocodile took a cigarette from his arms. I lit it since ancient times, took a deep breath, and spat in Bartolomeo's face. Bartolomeo's face was livid with anger, and just as he was about to take action, Crocodile had already taken out a devil fruit from his arms. You still need to remind me. Crocodile handed the devil fruit in his hand to Ye Huo and said, I'm also curious about how much devil fruit you can absorb. Ye Huo looked at the devil fruit in front of him. It looks like an apple in shape. Also has a swirl pattern. Ye Huo asked, what kind of fruit is this fruit? This one seems to be sold out of anger. Chi fruit. Ye Huo raised his eyebrows. This was the first time he had heard of this fruit. No matter what the fruit is, you'll know after you eat it. For a moment, everyone turned their attention to Ye Huo again. I don't know what happens after eating this fruit. Will Ye Huo explode and die? Ye Huo swallowed the devil fruit. Still so unpalatable. Ye Huo felt sick. He never wanted to eat devil fruit again. It was really unpalatable. Strange energy surged into the body. The system sound also sounded at the same time. Ding. Congratulations to host for getting the Chi fruit. 1,000 times reward is triggered. 1. 10,000 Chi fruits. 2. A super powerful fruit. Ye Huo doesn't know much about this Chi fruit. I don't know whether this Chi is the Chi of anger, or the Chi of the atmosphere and air pressure. Ye Huo took a closer look. Please give me flowers. It is air pressure. The ability of the Chi fruit is mainly to control air, and can compress, expand, etc. the air. Similar to Bartholomew Kuma's ability. But it is much more capable than Bartholomew Kuma. Ye Huo directly chose the super majestic fruit. In the following time, Ye Huo still began to awaken the ability of the super majestic energy fruit. He has great expectations for this new ability. Time passes day by day. Everyone is waiting boredly, especially Bartolomeo, who is boring as hell, controlling the barrier fruit and causing trouble everywhere. But no one could do anything to him. Finally, Hawkeye couldn't stand it anymore and used his bone sword to perform sword skills, easily piercing his barrier. Bartolomeo suddenly became honest. 5 days later, a retreating Ye Huo finally came out. A smile appeared on Ye Huo's face. Apparently he got the ability he wanted. The intensity of this attack is not high. It won't be as terrifying as a big explosion, and it won't have much penetrating power. I'm just trying out the power. It was made into a square shape with a barrier, with an air outlet flowing out of it. Bartolomeo wanted to sew his mouth shut. Bartolomeo felt a sharp pain in his body. Why are you talking so much? A white light flashed in his palm, and a white air ball appeared. Bartolomeo excitedly used the ability of the barrier fruit. Bartolomeo became energetic after hearing this, and laughed and said, "Okay, boss, you can take action, and I will follow. Boss, let's forget it, I can't stop your attack." Bartolomeo ran over immediately and said with a smile, "Boss, how is it, what is the new fruit ability?" "The reward of 10,000 times triggers B." Ye Huo smiled and then raised his right hand. The air mass floated towards Bartolomeo, completely surrounding Bartolomeo and the barrier fruit. "Boss, come on." Ye Huo looked at Bartolomeo with a half smile and said, "Your defense is the strongest, come and try it." Ding. Congratulations to host for awakening and air extraction. Bartolomeo waited carefully, but nothing happened. Bartolomeo smiled and said, "Boss, your new ability is not good." Ye Huo smiled, clenched his palms tightly, and the space inside the air mass suddenly began to be withdrawn in large quantities. Chapter 137. 10,000 times reward, unrivaled ability. 1. Ultra-wide air extraction. 2. Shaowei vacuum peeling. Ye Huo looked at the two options. The current vacuum extraction range is 100 cubic meters, which can extract 1/10 of the air inside. Ultra-wide vacuum extraction is based on this and is increased by hundreds of millions of times, which is 1 million cubic meters. Shaowei vacuum peeling strips all 100 cubic meters of air to form a vacuum state. If hit by vacuum stripping, then his body will explode from the inside out in an instant. Even if his body is strong enough, withstood the power of vacuum stripping. Of course this is almost impossible. But I really endured it. Then in a hypoxic environment, humans cannot survive either. At this moment, even if the air was taken away, Bartolomeo couldn't bear it anymore. Leaf 373, fire removes the power of the fruit. Bartolomeo rubbed the most injured arm and said, "Boss, you are lying. You clearly promised not to do anything harsh to me." Ye Huo smiled and said silently, "I choose, Shaowei vacuum peeling." Ye Huo said nothing, but looked at the sea. Immediately afterwards, a ball of white light appeared in Ye Huo's right fist. Then, Ye Huo gently blasted towards the sea ahead. The space shattered, and the entire sea surface suddenly set off wild waves. A sea king stretched out its body and bit Ye Huo hard. Ye Huo raised his left hand, and a ball of air emerged. The next moment, the air mass expanded rapidly and enveloped Sea King's head. Super powerful vacuum peeling. Ye Huo's fists were clenched. Immediately afterwards, an extremely bloody and cruel scene appeared. Sea King's head exploded in an instant. The seventh group was a mess of blood and flesh. Ye Huo turned back to look at Bartolomeo and said, "Am I going to treat you with all my heart?" "No, no." Bartolomeo's mouth twitched. He swore that he would never say that his defense was invincible again. "From now on, I will never be the boss's target again. People will die. It's really going to kill people." The ship continued sailing. No, it's back to Impel Down. The pirates and revolutionary soldiers in Impel Down cheered when they saw that Ye Huo had brought back a huge army. They have absolute confidence in this victory. Almost all the forces at sea, except Marine, came under Ye Huo's command. Kizaru watched Impel Down in shock. This has simply become a base camp for pirates. Look, who are these people? Bigmom pirates, Kaido pirates, Red Hair pirates, Whitebeard's old group and the Revolutionary Army. With the Revolutionary Army here, Kizaru feels that the world government may really fall this time. A ragtag group is not scary. But after being trained by the Revolutionary Army, these rabble began to work together. This is terrible. The more Kizaru looked at it, the more his heart sank. The number of Marines here has exceeded 100,000. And they are all famous pirates in the world. One such team is led by Ye Huo. Who can stop it? In the following time, Ye Huo followed Long's advice and did not rush to take action, but trained these pirates. Let these pirates become truly obedient revolutionary soldiers. Of course, this process is very difficult. But with Ye Huo in charge, he will be defeated and defeated directly. Pirates always respect the strong. Whatever Ye Huo tells them to do, they do it stupidly. They will not be ashamed of it, but will be proud of it. But what if Ye Huo disappears or dies? Then this state will disappear instantly. All the pirates will disperse. Just like what Long said. All, due to the importance of Dao Ye Huo. Dragon is almost always by Ye Huo's side. He was afraid that at this critical moment, Ye Huo would be attacked by someone. As expected, the world government sent agents to assassinate Ye Huo. Of course, none of them were successful. Marine is training heavily. Marine originally wanted to restrict the pirates in terms of food. But the pirates seemed to be able to create food out of thin air. A steady stream of food comes out of the warehouse. Marine had wanted to send someone into the warehouse. As a result, he was directly killed by Shanks, who was guarding the warehouse. Impel Down is like a huge mysterious place. Full of endless secrets. At this time, the Marine headquarters, where the Marine G1 branch was originally located, has gathered all the masters of Marine, as well as the masters recruited from the world. As Marine's new marshal, Aokiji is working hard to carry out reforms. He wants to improve Marine in the direction of what he understands to be justice. But the appearance of Ye Huo disrupted all his plans. Aokiji rubbed his forehead. Go find Garp with a bottle of good wine. Under the moonlight, Aokiji rides into the distance. Above, Sengoku was shouting at him, Aokiji, as the former commander-in-chief of Marine, I will tell you the most important point now. Marshal, you must sit in the rear. This is a task and responsibility you cannot shirk. Garp picked his nostrils and said, you asked the wrong person. I have never been a marshal. You should ask that bastard Sengoku. He also laughed loudly, grabbed a bottle of wine, and poured it into his mouth. Garp didn't like Sengoku, but he took one look at the good wine in his hand and said, you old boy, you even brought wine here, it's really rare. Garp took a big sip, and then laughed loudly and said, the kid at the beginning has now become a real strong man. He actually defeated the monster Kaido head-on. Ha ha ha, it's really not easy. 11. Garp was not polite, grabbed the wine, and drank heavily first. Aokiji heard the sound and looked over, and saw a battleship approaching. Aokiji also took a sip of wine and said slowly, old man, tell me, what should I do? 2.7 inches, it's so cool. Ha ha ha. Sengoku laughed. As the sun set, Aokiji and Garp had a drink facing the sunset. Garp, who are you calling an old bastard? Not far away, Sengoku came over aggressively carrying 2 bottles of wine. At this moment, Aokiji suddenly understood. Aokiji sighed, I really didn't expect that he would become so powerful. He actually defeated the 4 emperors and took them all under his command. He will attack us soon. You drunkard, drink you to death. Sengoku couldn't help but cursed, then grabbed the bottle and took a few sips himself. At this moment, a majestic voice sounded in the distance, hey, Aokiji boy, you are the marshal of Marine now. You can't act without permission. Go back quickly. The energy of the frozen fruit was injected into the sea, forming an ice road wherever it passed. As night fell, Aokiji was fully armed, put on his eyes, rode on his car, and drove into the sea. Chapter 138. Marine's Real Reckless Man, Sengoku. At this moment, although Sengoku's hair is gray, his energy is much better than when he was a marshal. Perhaps this is a true portrayal of being humble without official status. Sengoku had a relaxed smile on his face. He turned back to look at Garp and laughed loudly, I finally understand why you, an old boy, refused to be an admiral or a marshal. It turns out that you can be so willful and teach the marshal a lesson, ha ha ha. Sengoku raised his head and laughed. Garp crossed his arms across his chest and stared at Aokiji in the distance without even speaking a single glance. Aokiji listened. His eyes were red. He gripped the handlebars of his bicycle tightly. He naturally knew what the 2 old seniors were doing. They are going to stop Ye Huo. Stop Ye Huo from going crazy. And he also believes that if anyone can stop Ye Huo, then it is only these 2 seniors. Whether it's Sengoku or Garp, they both have a debt of gratitude for Ye Huo. Similarly, Sengoku and Garp are both extremely powerful beings. Their strength even surpasses the 4 emperors. At least Garp's strength must have surpassed 4 emperors. But even so, the Ye Huo of today is no longer the Ye Huo of the past. 12. His ambition was beyond imagination. He wants to overthrow the world government and become the master of the world. Does he want to overthrow the celestial dragons? Does he want to take their place? Is there any other purpose? Aokiji doesn't know, but he knows that Ye Huo is in extreme danger now. These 2 old heroes will never come back. But he could only watch helplessly here. He is Marine's marshal. If he goes to take risks and something goes wrong, the entire Marine will collapse completely. Aokiji wants to stop the 2 old heroes. But he couldn't. Today's Marine headquarters is definitely no match for Ye Huo. If the night fire attacks, it will inevitably lead to a loss of life. For the sake of countless lives, he couldn't stop it. And even if he stopped it, the 2 old-timers would never listen. Aokiji's eyes gradually became moist. He bowed deeply into the distance. One gift till dawn. Sengoku's laughter still echoed on the sea. The old marshal of the past has now become the reckless man of Marine. He looked at Sengoku and said, this is not like your style. Sengoku laughed loudly and said, why, you have been doing whatever you want your whole life. In the end, don't you allow me to indulge you for once. Since the battle with Golden Lion, I haven't exercised my muscles for a long time. I hope that brat Ye Huo won't let me down. Garp snorted coldly, when the time comes when your bones are broken, don't make a sound, otherwise you will make that kid laugh. Sengoku laughed loudly, that kid still wants to break my bones, he's still a little tender, ha ha ha. Sengoku has lifted a huge burden and has no burden on his heart. Now, he just wants to have a good fight and give his last bit of strength to Marine. As for the result, it's no longer up to him to decide. Even if he died in this battle, he would have no regrets. Half a month later, Marine's battleship sailed into the port of Impel Down. A pirate sentry noticed and immediately shot a firework into the air. Boom. There was an explosion, and the fireworks exploded into countless fireworks. One by one, the pirate warships were operating neatly and orderly. Rows of guns were aimed at the marine battleship. Seeing how well trained the other party was, Sengoku couldn't help but said, that brat Ye Huo is really good at doing big things. It's a smart move to gather the revolutionary army. With that said, Sengoku looked at Garp and said, Garp, you say you are Marine's hero, but all 10 of your sons, apprentices, and grandsons are Marine's mortal enemies. 1. How do you become a father? Garp picked his nostrils and said, I can do whatever I want. At this time, the opposing pirate group played a semaphore. That means, don't let Marine get close. Sengoku said, they didn't bombard them directly. They even put up flags. They are becoming more and more formal. They don't look like pirates at all. It takes a short time to adjust these rabble to this level. Your son's abilities are really good. It would be great if first could be Marine Marshal. At this moment, Sengoku seems to be a talkative person who never runs out of things to say. Instead, Garp was always silent. The personalities of Sengoku and Garp seem to have undergone a 180-degree change. It seems that Sengoku is the reckless Garp. And Garp is the resourceful General Sengoku. Marshal, the other party won't let us get close, what should we do? A Marine came up and asked. I am no longer a Marshal. Sengoku said with a look on Hoki's face, ignore what those smashers say, just rush over to me. Marine was stunned and looked at Sengoku in disbelief. Is this still the criminal vigilance Marshal Sengoku, known as the resourceful general? This is clearly what the reckless Garp feels like. Could it be that the souls of Marshal Sengoku and Vice Admiral Garp were exchanged? Marine looked at Garp who was silent. Sengoku couldn't help but cursed, what do you think that old man Garp is doing? Although I have retired, my official position was once higher than his. Listen to me and advance at full speed. Yes. Marine stood up straight, saluted, and then shouted the order, full speed ahead. The turbine accelerates and water splashes everywhere. The powerful horsepower propels the battleship forward at a fast speed of 690. On the other side of Impel Down, everyone was surprised when they saw that the marine battleship not only did not stop, but accelerated forward. Long came over at some point and saw the two people on the battleship. Garp, Sengoku. He already has something in his heart that he wants to protect. Even if it's his own uncle. With an order, cannonballs were fired towards the warship. Sengoku burst out laughing, it's not enough, it needs to be more intense. Even his own father. The next moment, Chi-Jin emerged in his palm, forming a ball of white light. Set off the fire. It absolutely cannot shake the guardianship in his heart. Countless cannonballs exploded in front of the battleship. Today is different from the past. Sengoku laughed loudly and retracted his palm, preparing for a flat push. The messenger immediately conveyed the order, and the artillery regiment commander shouted loudly, adjust the elements and aim at the marine ahead. The moment the cannonball hit him, Sengoku's palm instantly pushed out. Long shouted, blow Marine's battleship to pieces. The huge explosion alarmed Ye Huo. A terrifying shock wave spread out in a hemispherical shape and instantly hit the cannonball in front. The pirate gunners quickly adjusted their muzzles to face the marine warship. Boom boom boom. Chapter 139 Ye Huo's Buddha's Sengoku. Why is there the sound of gunfire? Ye Huo walked out of the room and asked the guard outside the door. Report to the leader, a marine battleship is coming to attack us. The general staff ordered an artillery attack. Ye Huo was slightly startled when he heard this. Now the combat power under his command is much stronger than Marine's. He didn't bother Marine. Marine should burn more incense. How dare Marine dare to come to trouble him? Among Marines, who is so brave? Could it be Circle Garp? Ye Huo walked towards the direction of the gunfire. Haven't taken a few steps yet. Sabo ran over at some point and blocked Ye Huo's path. Chief, where are you going? Ye Huo casually said, there is gunfire ahead, I'll go take a look. Saying that, Ye Huo walked forward again, but Sabo grabbed him and said, you can't throw it away. Ye Huo was stunned, why can't I go? Sabo solemnly said, Chief, your life is not just your life now, your life is related to the lives of hundreds of millions of people. You must not take risks. Ye Huo smiled and said, Sabo, don't you know my strength? Who is still my opponent now? I appreciate your kindness, please let go. However, Sabo grabbed him tightly and refused to let go. No, a certain commander of the general staff warned me that I must protect you. You can't go anywhere. Now that your men are strong here, if the enemy attacks, you can let them fight. You can't go. Ye Huo felt depressed for a while. He suddenly discovered that bringing the revolutionary army to his side would enhance the overall strength of the team. But the negative impact is not small. He actually took care of himself. Ye Huo broke away from Sabo with a wave of his hand. Ye Huo strode forward, but more senior leaders of the revolutionary army rushed over and blocked Ye Huo's path. Sabo from behind rushed over again, using his dragon claws to grab Yo tightly or not let go. Ye Huo is as depressed as he wants. Okay, I won't go out. Isn't it okay if I don't go out? Let go, everyone. Sabo and others let go after hearing this. Under the collective concern gaze of everyone, Ye Huo returned to his room. Yi Huo felt depressed for a while. The leader of Lao Shizi felt really aggrieved. But the next moment, an idea flashed in Yi Huo's mind. The next moment, a black space door appeared in front of him. Yi Huo stepped into it. Disappear. The next moment, he was already at the beach. Yi Huo was seeing such a scene. Countless cannonballs hit the marine battleship on the sea. Then a powerful shock wave rushed out from the marine warship and shattered the shell. Boom boom boom. A series of explosions continued. Yi Huo narrowed his eyes and looked into the distance. Standing on the battleship was a familiar figure. He has white hair, frog eyes, and is wearing a cyan shirt and a marine cape. At this time, the pirates' artillery fire in front of them kept throwing out punch after punch, and they were shouting, "Don't the brats on the opposite side have any strength? Hurry up and fire the cannons faster, ha ha ha." Sengoku laughed so loudly that Yi Huo's eyes widened. If it was Garp in front of him, he would still understand. After all, the nickname, Reckless Man, came from Garp. But when did Sengoku become such a reckless man? Stop firing off the cannons. Yi Huo shouted loudly. Pirates have given orders, come. When Long heard this, he became furious and shouted, "Who gave the order to stop firing cannons?" "It's me." Yi Huo strode over. Long's expression changed slightly. "Chief, why are you here?" Yi Huo said angrily, "Why can't I be here? Let me ask you, you let that guy Sabo guard me every day, and you won't let me do this or that. What do you want to do?" Long Zheng said, "This is all for the safety of the leader." Fart. Yi Huo cursed angrily and continued, "Stop talking nonsense. From today on, you ask those guys Sabo to leave you. I will get annoyed just looking at them. Also, I can go wherever I want and do whatever I want. No one can restrain me. Because I am strong enough. Besides, Long, I remember when you were the leader, you were running around alone. Don't use the word leader to limit me, but you don't remember what you did back then." Long was stunned when he heard this and said, "We are doing this for the safety of the leader, we." However, Yi Huo didn't care about anything and walked towards the sea. The dragon's face is as ugly as he wants. Crawl couldn't help but snicker when he saw it. "Huh, Chief Dragon, you are also here today. You can also taste the fear we felt at the beginning." Yi Huo walked towards the battleship and stopped about 100 meters away from the battleship. The body of the Buddha kept getting bigger and bigger, and finally it was 1,000 meters in size. The golden light shines on this sea area, dyeing Impel down golden. Sengoku laughed loudly when he heard this and said, "You brat, I haven't seen you for a year, but you actually created such a formation at sea. The complete Shizuo Nang has already been formed. It quickly condensed into a huge purple-black skeleton. I haven't done anything for decades. Today, Zhao Zhaohao, let me try it and test you to see if you have this power." "You brat, your tone is getting louder and louder." As Sengoku said, his body began to grow rapidly, and powerful shock waves kept surging out of his body, making high-frequency sounds. Sengoku laughed loudly when he heard this. "You brat, you are quite good at winning people's hearts, but we still have to see how good you are." Yi Huo's eyes have turned into a Rinnegan demon. The wind was strong and there was a wave on the sea. With the 3 emperors under your command, and countless pirates following you, you are almost becoming the second world government. Yi Huo smiled and said, "On the sea, there will only be one world government, and his name will not be Marine. I thought of a good name, how about calling it Marine Police? And the celestial dragons should not be the masters of this world. I think this world belongs to everyone, so the master of this world should also be everyone, don't you think?" Yi Huo looked at the 2 old men on the battleship and said, "Garp, Sengoku, I didn't expect that you two would come to see me together. What an honor." Quote. Muscle skin grew on the purple-black skeleton, covering it with a thick layer of armor. Yi Huo smiled and said, "Okay, Marine Buddha Sengoku is world-renowned. I have long wanted to try to see how strong Buddha Sengoku is." Powerful purple-black energy surged out of his body. This will distinguish it from the previous Marine. Chapter 140 Peak Giant Showdown Shizuo vs Big Buddha. The feet of the golden Buddha kept sending out shock waves. Keep the Buddha from falling into the sea. A pair of purple-black wings condensed from the back of Yi Huo's whiskers. The wings flapped to maintain the stability of the huge body. The huge purple-black giant has 4 arms. 2 huge purple-black swords were condensed from the 2 arms on the left side. Shizuo's hands grasped 2 giant swords tightly. The wings flapped, creating gusts of wind. Shock waves and strong winds hit the sea surface at the same time. Create huge waves. Garp jumped off the boat and ordered, "Get away from here quickly." Vice Admiral Garp, what should you and Marshal Sengoku do? A seaman named Rear Admiral looked extremely ugly. Although he followed Sengoku and Garp here, he was already prepared in his heart. But seeing that the 2 marine heroes were left here alone, they still felt unbearable in their hearts. "Come on, or you will all die in there." After saying that, Garp kicked his feet and landed on Impel down. Garp crossed his arms across his chest, as if he had never seen Long and the others, and just looked at the 2 huge giants in midair. Marine's battleship retreated. The pirates in Impel down also turned their attention to the 2 huge figures in midair. The two huge voices rose higher and higher. The terrifying momentum is getting stronger and stronger. Visible air waves emanate from the feet of the Golden Buddha. Purple-black energy emanates from Shizuo's body. Back when you were a Marine, I recommended you to be a Marine Admiral many times. You little bastard insists on learning from Garp. Just not Admiral. If you have something to do, just be lazy for me. I've been putting up with you for a long time. I've long wanted to beat you little bastard to death with my own hands. Today, I finally got this opportunity. I will never let you go. You brat, take one blow from me. Sengoku's right hand suddenly moved backward. The huge golden right palm was aimed at Ye Huo head-on. The white energy light group kept compressing and recompressing in his palm. The terrifying energy fluctuations shook the air. Make a huge roar. Buddha's impact. Buddha's Sengoku pushed out his palm at that moment. The terrifying shock wave expanded rapidly, visible to the naked eye. The impact hit Ye Huo instantly. Ye Huo held a huge sword in his hands at that BCBC moment. Then he slashed hard towards the shock wave. The purple-black energy collided hard with the shock wave. The light shines and the energy strikes. Unparalleled terrifying power swept across all directions. Explosions came and went. Buddha's Sengoku let out a roar and pushed forward with his palms. Ye Huo's wings vibrated, and the long sword pressed downwards. Finally, the long sword collided with the golden palm of Yobutsu Sengoku. A huge roar exploded again. A terrifying explosion exploded from between the two of them. The extremely terrifying and powerful explosive force immediately rebounded Buddha's Sengoku and flew tens of thousands of meters backwards. Ye Huo's figure also retreated several thousand meters in midair. But he took wings for a while and then stopped. Sengoku increased the force of the shock wave and then stabilized his body. Sengoku was slightly out of breath, looked at Ye Huo and laughed loudly. Okay, what a brat, you actually have such power. If I don't use my full strength, I will really be defeated by you today. Quote. As the words fell, Sengoku's body surged with even more powerful power. His golden Buddha has black armament haki attached to its body. The golden Buddha instantly turned into a black Buddha. The powerful armament haki condensed into black ribbons, fluttering around the body of the Buddha. Sengoku's strength was greatly improved at this moment. Boy, use all your strength. Don't let me have any regrets. Buddha Sengoku stared closely at Ye Huo. Ye Huo took a deep breath. He said slowly, do we have to do this? Sengoku laughed loudly and said, I am Marine's Marshal. Although it was only once, my whole life has been dedicated to Marine. I don't want my life to be stained. Ye Huo's expression gradually became serious. Okay. Ye Huo only uttered one short word. Ye Huo threw away the sword in his hand. He raised his left palm, reached into it with his right hand, and slowly pulled out a pitch-black bone sword. The bone sword is 700 to 800 meters long. Purple-black haki also surged out of Ye Huo's body. Attached to Suzuo. Attached to the bone sword. The purple-black haki also formed ribbons around Ye Huo's body. Shizuo's four arms held the bone sword at the same time. At that moment, a majestic and powerful momentum was suddenly released from Ye Huo's body. Ye Huo's eyes were as sharp as a hawk. Hawkeye in the distance sighed when he saw this. The former Marshal Marine will end up here today. A new era will begin here. I felt the terrifying and majestic momentum of Ye Huo. Sengoku laughed loudly. Okay, this is the only way to be presentable. Sengoku laughed, but Garp in the distance still didn't move at all. Sengoku, this sword will be my strongest sword. Sengoku took a deep breath, clenched his fists in an instant, and flew high into the air, reaching Takatomi who was tens of thousands of meters away. Sengoku's head fell downwards, his palms closed at his waist. The next moment, Sengoku's legs produced a huge shock wave, pushing Sengoku's body down rapidly. The force of falling, coupled with the powerful thrust of the shock wave. The speed of the Black Buddha reached an extremely terrifying level. The strong wind formed a strong chi barrier in front of the Buddha. This is the performance of ultimate speed. In the blink of an eye, the big Black Buddha was only a kilometer away from Ye Huo. At that moment, Sengoku punched out with his right fist. Boy, take a hit from me. An unparalleled huge impact instantly penetrated the Gangfang barrier. Hit Ye Huo's head. Blood gushes out wildly, and Sengoku's Buddha form retreats. The powerful sword roared with a breach. Garp, I can't do it anymore, it's up to you. Ye Huo still misses him as an old officer. Sengoku's face turned pale, and he cursed weakly, that little bastard, he actually kept his hand, and my whole life's reputation was ruined by him. The arms of the Black Buddha were chopped off, falling downwards. The Black Sword Gang instantly cut through the shock wave. He fell towards the sea. In that moment, although Sengoku cursed like this, there was a trace of relief in his eyes. The black sword that was thousands of miles long collided with the shock wave of the Black Giant Buddha in an instant. Slashed on the arm of the Black Buddha. A crack was cut into the space. At that moment, Ye Huo clenched the huge bone sword. Garp's figure flashed one after another, using moonwalk to reach Sengoku, and caught Sengoku. Cut out with one sword. A sonic boom exploded.